Chapter 161. First Attack. The magical barrier that imprisoned them also blocked all forms of communication, creating complete isolation from their allies. Their warning signals simply dissipated against the king's spell work without reaching any external recipients. "The signals aren't getting through," the first guard said with growing panic, shaking his crystal desperately. "We're completely cut off," confirmed his companion, his professional composure cracking as the reality of them being imprisoned from the outside world became clear. Both guards drew their weapons, but their blades felt useless against the magical imprisonment that offered no physical target to attack. They were trapped within an air pocket, surrounded by water and magical barriers that defied their resistance. "This is at least a master-level spell work," the first guard assessed grimly, his experience allowing him to recognize the sophistication of their prison. "Whoever's doing this can easily kill us. We are in trouble." "More than serious," replied the second guard, testing the bubble's boundaries with cautious sword strikes that accomplished nothing. "This is archmage-level magic. We're dealing with someone far beyond our ability to handle." Their panic intensified as they realized the hopelessness of their situation. Professional extremist operatives were accustomed to having escape plans and backup options, but this magical imprisonment offered no solutions. "Show yourselves!" the first guard shouted toward the water above them, hoping to negotiate with their captors. "We demand to know who dares interfere with our operations." "Demand?" came King Aldrich's voice as the concealment spell finally dissolved, revealing the floating party of investigators. The extremist guard's eyes widened with shock as they beheld their captors. A human king whose aura marked him as incredibly powerful, a princess whose royal bearing was unmistakable, a master-level succubus whose presence made both guards instinctively step backwards, and a normal-looking human at the novice rank. The human next to the three powerful individuals was like a small lamp next to the stars. They completely ignored him. Unnoticed to them, the seemingly ordinary young man in front of them was the main reason that they would all be dead tonight. The reason why one of the most powerful demon bases near the human kingdom would perish, and alongside it would perish the traitors to the human kingdom. "The human king," the first guard breathed, recognizing the royal insignia and overwhelming presence. The second guard's weapon clattered to the ground as the full scope of their situation became clear. They hadn't been captured by normal human adventurers or opportunistic bounty hunters. They were facing the legitimate ruler of the human kingdom, backed by forces that completely outclassed their defensive capabilities. "You will answer our questions," King Aldrich stated with cold eyes that sent shivers down the spine of the demons in front of him. The trapped extremists found themselves facing interrogation by the most powerful man in the human kingdom, with no escape route and no hope of rescue from their underground allies. "How many demons are there inside, and what's their strength?" the king demanded, his voice carrying the authority of absolute power. The demons stared at him with obvious confusion, their expressions revealing they didn't understand his words. After all, they didn't speak the human tongue fluently enough to comprehend complex interrogation questions. Seeing their confusion, Noah stepped forward to translate. The first demon responded with forced bravado despite his trapped position. "There are a few of us, with the strongest being near the masterclass but still within adept shackles." Upon hearing Noah's translation, the king frowned deeply. His enhanced senses had already detected multiple master-level magical signatures deeper in the underground facility, marking the demon's response an obvious lie. Without warning, King Aldrich gestured sharply and conjured a razor-thin wind blade that cut through the first demon's arm without any resistance. The limbs separated cleanly, blood spattering against the magical barrier as the extremist screamed in agony. "You're lying," the king stated with terrifying calm. "For every lie you spout out of that filthy mouth, you will lose a limb." The second demon, witnessing his companion's mutilation, attempted another deception. "We're just scouts. The base is mostly empty." Another wind blade flashed through the air, severing the lying demon's leg at the knee. His agonized howl echoed within the magical bubble as he collapsed to the bottom of their prison. Both extremists realized the futility of their situation. They couldn't inform or help their team inside. They couldn't escape, and their interrogator possessed both the power and ruthlessness to dismember them until they broke. Rather than face continued torture and eventual betrayal of their cause, both demons made a final choice that demonstrated their fanatical dedication. They glanced at each other for a second before subtly nodding. The first demon's eyes blazed with resolve. "For the true demon kingdom," he shouted, his hands moving to his chest where his mana core pulsed with contained energy. The second demon echoed his companion's declaration. "Death before dishonor to humans." Both extremists began expanding rapidly as they deliberately destabilized their own mana cores. Their bodies swelled like balloons as energy built toward a catastrophic level. Boom! They burst simultaneously inside the bubble, filling it with gore and blood. The barrier contained the explosion completely, preventing any damage to the surrounding area while trapping the extremists' remains within their prison. Lola observed the aftermath with detachment, her centuries of combat experience having shown her similar fanatical behavior before. To Noah, however, this was something entirely different. Witnessing beings willing to self-destruct for a cause. Seeing it firsthand was unprecedented. He stood frozen, staring at the aftermath in stunned silence. As much as he despised the demons, he couldn't help but feel some respect for their unwavering loyalty. "They destroyed their mana cores," she muttered with a mixture of disgust and respect. "These extremists are loyal to their cause. They are truly delusional. It's sad." The self-destruction demonstrated the depth of extremist indoctrination. These demons preferred suicide over the possibility of revealing information that might compromise their operations or ideology. Chapter 162. Treason. King Aldrich dispelled the bloody bubble with a wave of his hand, allowing the contaminated water to flow away and clear the area. His expression showed no satisfaction at the interrogation's violent conclusion. "Fanatics," he said grimly. "This confirms we're dealing with true believers rather than mercenaries or opportunists." The extremists' willingness to die rather than risk betraying their cause meant the conspiracy ran deeper than simple criminal collaboration. These were ideologically committed enemies who would sacrifice everything for their twisted vision of demon supremacy. The master-level demons deeper in the facility will be even more dangerous, Noah observed, understanding that their opponents' fanatical dedication made them unpredictable and extremely hazardous. They moved through the underground tunnel system with their concealment spell still active, their footsteps completely silent against the rough stone flooring. The passageway stretched deeper into the earth, branching into multiple directions that suggested a complex network of chambers and rooms. As they progressed, they encountered several doorways leading to various chambers. King Aldrich paused at each entrance, extending his enhanced magical senses to scan for occupants. "Empty bedrooms," he murmured after checking the third consecutive vacant room. "The demons are either in a meeting or gathered somewhere else entirely." The abandoned chambers showed signs of recent habitation. Unmade beds, personal belongings scattered about, and the lingering scent of occupancy. But every room they passed stood empty, as if the entire underground facility had been evacuated except for essential personnel. "They're all gathered in one location," Noah observed, noting the pattern of abandonment. "Something important must be happening." Their progress through the tunnel system eventually brought them to a much larger chamber, its massive wooden doors suggesting significant importance within the facility's hierarchy. Unlike the modest entrances to sleeping quarters, this portal was reinforced with metal bands and magical wards that spoke to high-level security measures. King Aldrich paused before the imposing entrance, his expression growing more serious as his magical perception detected the energy signatures beyond. "Zephyr's Eye," he muttered with articulation, his hands weaving complex gestures that called upon archmage-level magic. Suddenly, a translucent orb appeared behind him, floating with gentle rotation as it absorbed ambient magical energy. The sphere pulsed with contained wind essence, its surface shimmering with recorded moments that seemed to dance within its structure. Noah glanced at the floating artifact with obvious fascination, unable to contain his curiosity about such advanced magical techniques. "What's this?" "This is a skill I've learned recently," Aldrich explained patiently. It's only available at the Archmage level, a technique that allows me to do the seemingly impossible. He gestured toward the floating orb with obvious appreciation for its sophisticated magical construction. It allows me to capture moments and store them using concentrated wind and mana manipulation. With this artifact, I can review whatever was recorded, like viewing events from the past. Noah's eyes widened with genuine amazement. An Archmage spell that functioned like a camera represented the kind of advanced technique he could only dream of mastering at his current skill level. "That's incredibly impressive," he breathed, his mind already imagining the strategic applications of such capability. Recording evidence that can't be disputed or altered. The implications were staggering. With Zephyr's eye, they could document whatever conspiracy lay beyond the chamber doors and present irrefutable proof to any authority that demanded evidence of treason. King Aldrich nodded with satisfaction at Noah's appreciation for the spell's sophistication. "Evidence gathering at the highest level. Whatever we discover here will be preserved for royal justice." With the recording spell activated and ready to document their findings, the king's expression changed to serious. The time for stealth and scouting had ended. Now they needed direct confrontation with whatever conspiracy awaited beyond the reinforced doors. "There's no need to hide anymore," he declared with the authority of someone prepared for open conflict. "We have the evidence we need, and now we simply gather the traitors and enemies for punishment." Before opening the door, the king positioned their group for optimal safety and advantage. "Noah, Ilara, behind us. Lady Lola and I will take point position." The arrangement placed the two most magically powerful individuals at the front, where they could respond immediately to threats, while keeping the less combat-experienced members in protected positions where they could observe and document without becoming primary targets. Noah moved behind the king as instructed, understanding that his swordsmanship skills, while advancing rapidly, weren't yet sufficient for master-level magical combat. Princess Ilara took position beside him, her own magical capabilities formidable but not quite matching her father's Archmage-level power. Lola flowed into combat position beside King Aldrich. Her master-level magical abilities combined with the king's Archmage power created a front line that could handle virtually any threat they might encounter. With positions established and recording magic active, King Aldrich placed his hand on the reinforced door and pushed it open with force. The chamber beyond revealed itself as a vast underground meeting hall, its ceiling supported by carved stone pillars. Magical torches provided flickering illumination, which made the place visible but mysterious at the same time. What they saw inside made Noah raise an eyebrow in interest. Approximately 50 demons filled the chamber, their ranks clearly organized by magical power and status. Most appeared to be apprentice-level demons, the backbone of any extremist organization, while several adept-rank individuals occupied positions of obvious authority near the front of the gathering. But dominating the entire assembly was a single master-level demon whose magical aura filled the chamber with menace. His presence got the king's and Lola's immediate attention, marking him as the clear leader of this underground conspiracy. However, the demons weren't the most shocking discovery within the treasonous gathering. Baron Richard stood near the front of the assembly, his large alcohol belly unmistakable even in the flickering torchlight. But he wasn't alone among the human collaborators. Several other nobles of equivalent rank had joined his betrayal of the crown. Most disturbing of all was the presence of a viscount whose higher noble rank suggested the conspiracy reached deeper into the kingdom's aristocratic hierarchy than anyone had suspected. Chapter 163, Burning Life Force. The mixed gathering of demons and human nobles represented exactly the kind of cross-species collaboration that could not only destabilize but perhaps destroy the human kingdom if left unchecked. This wasn't simple criminal activity. It was organized treason on a scale that threatened the very foundations of legitimate government. The moment the door opened, every head in the chamber turned toward the unexpected intrusion. 50 pairs of eyes, demonic and human alike, focused on the small group of investigators who had just shattered their secret meeting. The silence that followed lasted only seconds before recognition dawned across multiple faces simultaneously. King Aldrich. Baron Richard's voice cracked with terror as he recognized the royal figure standing in the doorway. The human king. shouted one of the adept rank demons, his mind immediately assessing the threat level represented by an archmage-level opponent. "We're compromised," screamed the Viscount, his instincts recognizing that royal discovery of their conspiracy meant death sentences for everyone involved. Panic erupted throughout the chamber as extremists and nobles alike realized their secret alliance had been exposed by the most powerful authority in the human kingdom. Shouts of alarm mixed with the sound of weapons being drawn and magical energy being summoned for combat. The master-level demon leader's eyes blazed with fury as he processed the human king's presence. His aura intensified dramatically, filling the chamber with oppressive energy that made the air itself feel thick and hostile. "Kill them!" he roared with the authority of someone accustomed to commanding absolute obedience. "None of them can leave here alive." The chamber exploded into chaos as 50 extremists and their noble collaborators prepared for desperate battle against opponents they knew possessed superior magical capabilities. But before the first spell could be cast or blade drawn, King Aldrich's voice cut through the pandemonium with the overwhelming authority of Archmage-level power. "Silence!" The command froze every person under the adept rank in the chamber as royal authority backed by devastating magical power dominated the underground space. Even the master-level demon found himself momentarily stunned by the sheer force of the king's presence. Zephyr's Eye continued recording every detail of the treasonous gathering, preserving evidence that would ensure justice for every conspirator present. The master-level demon's aura intensified dramatically as he focused every ounce of his considerable power on breaking King Aldrich's magical command. His muscles strained visibly as raw magical force battled against royal authority, the underground chamber filling with conflicting energies that made the very air crackle with tension. Despite his obvious effort and the tremendous mana expenditure required, the demon leader managed to shatter the king's spell through sheer determination and power. However, the victory came at a slight cost. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead from exertion. The master-level demon looked genuinely worried as he assessed their situation. He had used an enormous amount of mana to break the king's monopolizing spell, and things definitely weren't looking good for his forces. An Archmage-level opponent backed by a master-level succubus represented overwhelming opposition that his mixed group of extremists and corrupt nobles couldn't hope to match in direct combat. Immediately recognizing the desperate nature of their circumstances, the demon leader decided to play a defensive role that might give his forces a chance at survival. His hands moved as he conjured magical energy, focusing his remaining power into a massive protective barrier. The shield materialized as a large red dome that encompassed the entire gathering, its surface rippling with contained energy. "Everyone," he shouted with a hurried tone, "prepare for a joint attack. Gather all your energy and focus it into one coordinated strike. I will protect you while you charge your spells." The combined magical assault of 50 demons ranging from apprentice to adept rank wasn't something to dismiss lightly. King Aldrich's expression grew serious as he calculated the potential threat such concentrated firepower might represent. If properly coordinated and given sufficient time to charge, their combined attack might perhaps reach Archmage-level power in terms of raw magical output. Naturally, that didn't mean they could actually fight an Archmage in sustained combat. Factors like casting time, experience, and individual capability would prevent such coordination under normal circumstances. Besides, it wasn't like an Archmage would let such a large group continue their casting. He would simply kill them as they charged their attacks. But the master-level demon's protective barrier was giving them exactly the time and security they needed to attempt such a desperate gambit. King Aldrich refused to allow the extremists to execute their plan unchallenged. He immediately began attacking the master-level demon's barrier with concentrated wind magic, his Archmage-level spells striking the red dome with tremendous force. However, the demon leader was pouring all of his remaining mana into maintaining the protective shield, making it incredibly difficult to penetrate. The barrier absorbed each attack and redistributed the energy across its entire surface, creating a nearly impenetrable defense. Time was passing, and the combined magical energy within the protective dome was growing larger and more dangerous with each passing moment. The apprentice and adept rank demons chanted in unison, their individual magical capabilities merging into something far more threatening than the sum of their parts. Seeing that things weren't looking good, Noah reached into his storage ring and withdrew 2 bottles of iced tea. He recognized the crisis developing before them. Whilst the king and Lola were attacking, their attacks weren't to the max of their abilities. After all, they still needed to keep some mana to protect themselves in case things went wrong. Besides, the master-level demons seemed to be burning through his life force as he increased his power tremendously for a short period of time. "Here!" he called, offering the magical beverages to Lola and King Aldrich, who were focusing their attacks on the barrier. "This will help." Both powerful mages accepted the bottles without hesitation, understanding that any advantage in a battle of this magnitude could prove decisive. They drank the iced tea quickly, feeling the immediate effects as their mana reserves expanded and their magical regeneration accelerated. The iced tea increased mana reserves, regeneration, and magical power by 30%, making King Aldrich much less worried about his energy expenditure during the prolonged assault on the demon's barrier. Immediately after consuming the magical enhancement, both attackers' spells became significantly more powerful. The barrier, which had been holding steady under their previous assault, began showing visible cracks as the enhanced magical attacks overwhelmed its defensive capabilities. The red dome shattered with a sound like breaking crystal, its protective energy dissipating as the master-level demon's mana finally proved insufficient to maintain the shield against Archmage-level and master-level succubus assault, despite burning through his life force. At that moment, Baron Richard's eyes fell upon Noah for the first time since the chamber doors had opened. His face contorted with rage and betrayal as realization crashed over him like a physical blow. "You!" he screamed, pointing an accusatory finger at the young merchant. "You set me up. You knew the king personally. Otherwise, how could you bring him directly to our secret meeting? You followed me, you damn rat." The Baron's political mind finally grasped the scope of Noah's deception. The mysterious shopkeeper hadn't been a helpless victim to extort. He had been a deliberate agent working to expose their conspiracy from the very beginning. "You played me like a fool. Everything was a trap." Richard continued raging, his voice breaking with fury and madness. But his angry revelation came too late to change their hopeless situation. With their protective barrier destroyed and their coordinated attack interrupted, the extremists found themselves facing Archmage-level opposition without adequate preparation. The battle that followed was swift and brutal. King Aldrich's wind magic tore through the apprentice and adept-rank demons with devastating efficiency, while Lola's master-level spells eliminated multiple targets simultaneously. The corrupt nobles, lacking any significant magical power, could only watch in terror as their extremist allies fell around them like wheat before a scythe. Within minutes, every adept-rank demon lay dead or dying, their blood pooling on the stone floor of the underground chamber. The few surviving apprentice-rank operatives cowered in corners, too terrified to continue fighting against such overwhelming opposition. Seeing the complete destruction of his forces, the master-level demon leader made the same choice his guards had made earlier. His eyes blazed with fanatical determination as he refused to accept capture or interrogation by human authorities. "For the true demon kingdom!" he roared, placing his hands over his mana core with desperate resolve. "Death before submission to inferior humans." The demon began expanding rapidly as he deliberately destabilized his own magical core, his body swelling grotesquely as contained energy built toward catastrophic release. But unlike the smaller explosions from the adept-rank guards earlier, a master-level demon's self-destruction represented exponentially greater destructive potential. The explosion, when it came, was 100 times more powerful than the adept-rank demons. The underground chamber was filled with blinding light and devastating force as the demon's mana core detonated with the energy of a small magical bomb. King Aldrich and Lola immediately recognized the mortal danger such an explosion represented to their less protected companions. Working together with urgency, they combined their magical abilities to create a defensive barrier around Noah, Princess Alara, and the surviving corrupt nobles. The protective shield absorbed the worst of the blast, though the chamber walls cracked and debris rained down from the ceiling as the magical explosion tested the structural integrity of the entire underground facility. When the light faded and the dust settled, They found themselves alive but shaken within their magical protection. The master-level demon had been completely obliterated by his own desperate gambit, leaving nothing but a crater where he had made his final stand. The surviving corrupt nobles, Baron Richard, the Viscount, and several others, cowered within the protective barrier, their faces pale with terror as they realized their extremist allies were all dead while they remained at the mercy of royal justice. Don't get any weird ideas. We protected you only to ensure proper execution later, King Aldrich informed the trembling traitors with cold authority. You will all be executed publicly in the main streets, as befits those who commit treason against the kingdom. The underground conspiracy had been shattered, its leaders dead and its human collaborators captured for public justice. But the fanatical dedication shown by the extremist demons served as a sobering reminder of the ideological threat that still faced both kingdoms. The evidence recorded by Zephyr's eye would ensure that justice was swift and public, while the destruction of this particular cell would send a clear message to any other nobles contemplating collaboration with enemies of the human kingdom. On their way back to the human kingdom, Noah glanced at the captured human nobles with undisguised disgust. The sight of Baron Richard and his fellow conspirators filled him with revulsion that transcended mere disappointment. To sell your own people for mere profits was truly disgusting. These men had betrayed their oaths, their kingdom, and their fellow citizens for nothing more than personal gain and extremist gold. Baron Richard and the other traitors all bore looks of complete despair on their faces. The reality of their situation had finally penetrated their shock. They were bound for public execution as convicted traitors, with no hope of escape or leniency. Magic cuffs forged by the king himself ensured their compliance during the journey back to face royal justice. The enchanted restraints carried a deadly warning. If any prisoner dared to move outside the bounds of their magical prison, they would immediately lose a limb to precisely controlled wind magic. The threat wasn't idle intimidation. King Aldrich's reputation for following through on such promises meant every captured noble understood exactly what would happen if they attempted escape or resistance. Their faces reflected the hopelessness of men who had gambled everything on a conspiracy that had been thoroughly exposed and decisively crushed. As they approached the kingdom's main gate, the scene that greeted the guards was so shocking that it left them momentarily speechless. Their beloved king was returning with a group of high-ranking nobles bound in magical restraints like common criminals. Chapter 165, Public Trial. The sight was so unprecedented and stunning that the gate guards didn't even notice Noah walking among the royal party. Their attention remained completely focused on the impossible vision of captured aristocrats being marched toward the capital for what could only be treason charges. "Your Majesty, what has happened?" called the captain of the gate guard, who was at the adept rank, his voice carrying both relief at the king's safe return and confusion about the prisoners. "Treason, these nobles have been caught collaborating with demon extremists against the kingdom. They have sold their kind for mere profit. They will face public trial and execution." King Aldrich replied in a cold tone. The announcement sent shockwaves through the assembled guards, whose training had never prepared them for witnessing the arrest of multiple noble families simultaneously by the king himself. Meanwhile, Lola remained concealed through a subtle spell, her demonic features hidden from casual observation. The king had suggested it would be better to keep her presence secret until he could properly clarify the complex political issues surrounding demon allies and extremist enemies. Noah had readily agreed with the proposal, understanding that introducing a master-level succubus to the general population required careful preparation and official royal backing. The public trial followed with unprecedented swiftness, demonstrating King Aldrich's determination to address treason with immediate and decisive action. He refused to allow time for political maneuvering or behind-the-scenes negotiations that might compromise the integrity of justice. The king summoned one of his master-level royal guards, a formidable warrior whose loyalty to the crown had been proven through decades of faithful service. "Gather every noble family in the kingdom. Send official summons that brooks no refusal or delay. This is a matter of kingdom security that demands their immediate presence." King Aldrich commanded. The royal guard bowed deeply, understanding the gravity of such a comprehensive summoning. "It shall be done, Your Majesty. When do you require their attendance?" "In an hour," the king replied firmly, "and issue a public announcement throughout the capital. I want every citizen who can possibly attend to witness what transpires. This trial will serve as both justice and warning." The master-level guard departed immediately to execute his sovereign's commands, knowing that such urgent royal orders indicated events of extraordinary significance. Within minutes, royal messengers had spread throughout the kingdom carrying official summons to every noble house, regardless of rank or current political standing. The messages carried the unmistakable seal of royal authority that made attendance mandatory rather than optional. Simultaneously, town criers filled the streets with announcements that drew crowds of curious citizens eager to understand what momentous event would require such unprecedented public gathering. "Hear ye! Hear ye!" The criers called from every major intersection. By royal decree, all citizens are invited to witness a trial of utmost importance to the kingdom, in an hour in the Grand Plaza. The announcement created a buzz of speculation throughout the capital as people wondered what crime could possibly warrant such public attention and comprehensive noble attendance. An hour passed, the sky was clear and bright, as if the weather itself recognized the significance of the proceedings about to unfold. The Grand Plaza had filled with an enormous crowd that represented every level of society. Whether poor or rich, powerful or weak, everyone is gathered. Noble families occupied designated seating areas, their expressions ranging from curiosity to growing unease as they noticed several familiar faces missing from their usual social circles. The absence of Baron Richard and his associates had been noted, but no one could have predicted the true reason for their disappearance. Common citizens filled every available space, their voices creating a low murmur of anticipation that reflected the kingdom's collective desire to understand what had prompted such an extraordinary gathering. King Aldrich appeared on the raised platform that had been constructed for the trial, his royal regalia gleaming. His presence got immediate silence from the assembled thousands, his absolute authority settling over the plaza like a force of nature. "Citizens of Durenhold, you have been summoned to witness justice being served against those who would betray everything we hold sacred." His voice rang out with mana amplification that carried his words to every corner of the vast gathering. A collective intake of breath rippled through the crowd. Betrayal suggested treason, the most serious crime possible against the crown and the kingdom. "Before you stand those who have sold their oaths, their honor, and their fellow citizens for mere gold." The king continued, gesturing toward the platform where Baron Richard and his fellow conspirators had been brought in magical restraints. Gasps of shock echoed throughout the plaza as noble families recognized members of their own social circle among the accused traitors. The sight of high-ranking aristocrats bound like common criminals sent waves of disbelief through the assembled nobility. "You will witness the evidence of their crimes through magical means that cannot be falsified or disputed," King Aldrich declared, raising his hand to summon the floating orb that had recorded their underground meeting. "Zephyr's eye, reveal truth," he commanded. The magical recording began playing above the platform, projecting images and sound with crystal clarity that left no room for denial or interpretation. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the conspiracy unfolded before their eyes. The underground meeting chamber appeared in the air above them, showing the gathering of demon extremists and human nobles in treasonous collaboration. Voices carried clearly across the plaza as the recorded conversations revealed the depth of their betrayal. The crowd erupted in angry murmurs as they witnessed Baron Richard distributing kingdom resources to enemies who openly despised their people. The recording continued, showing the planning sessions where extremist attacks were coordinated with noble assistance, the exchange of military intelligence for personal profit, and the discussion of treating human citizens as expendable resources. When the magical projection finally ended, the silence in the Grand Plaza was deafening. Thousands of citizens stared at the accused nobles with expressions of betrayal, rage, and disgust that needed no verbal expression. Chapter 166. Receiving a Title. King Aldrich allowed the evidence to settle in the people's minds before pronouncing judgment with an iron fist. "The evidence is undeniable. These men have committed high treason against the crown, collaborated with enemies of the kingdom, and sold the lives of their fellow citizens for personal gain," he declared, his voice carrying across the plaza. He raised his hand, and executioner's blocks appeared on the platform, their appearance sending a clear message about the fate awaiting the convicted traitors. By the authority vested in me as sovereign of this realm, I pronounce sentence of death upon all who participated in this conspiracy. They shall be beheaded immediately, as befits those who have severed their loyalty to the kingdom they swore to protect, the king announced. The crowd roared its approval as justice was pronounced. They were incredibly satisfied with the way the king went about the issue. He didn't grant them any excuses just because of their noble heritage. This made those in the crowd satisfied that traitors would face appropriate consequences for their crimes. But King Aldrich wasn't finished with his pronouncements. All businesses, properties, and assets belonging to these traitors now belong to the kingdom, he continued. Their wealth, gained through betrayal and corruption, will be redistributed to serve the people they wronged. This announcement drew even louder approval from the assembled citizens, many of whom had suffered under the corrupt practices of these same nobles. The king raised his hand for silence before making his final offer. Any citizen who has been wronged by these convicted traitors may present evidence of their grievances to royal magistrates, he declared. Provide proof of theft, extortion, or other crimes, and you will be compensated from their seized assets. The promise of restitution sent waves of excitement through the crowd, particularly among those who had suffered under Baron Richard's notorious practices. The executions proceeded swiftly, the headsman's blade falling upon each convicted traitor. The crowd watched with satisfaction as justice was served publicly and thoroughly. As the last head fell, King Aldrich addressed his people one final time. Let this serve as a warning to any who would consider betraying their oaths for foreign gold. Reason against the kingdom will be met with swift and final justice, regardless of rank or station, he proclaimed. The king's words were clear. This wasn't just for show. He had sent a message to every single person in the kingdom, especially those at the top of the chain. If you dare to betray the kingdom, you will be publicly executed and will lose everything. Some of the nobles watched with a grim look, whilst others watched without any expression. As the first part of the public trial was done, the king called for silence once again. As the first part of the public trial concluded with the final execution, King Aldrich raised his hand to command silence from the still buzzing crowd. The plaza, which had been filled with satisfied murmurs about justice served, fell quiet once again as their sovereign prepared to make another announcement. Now that justice has been delivered, it is time to address matters of recognition and reward for those who serve the kingdom with honor. The crowd's attention increased with curiosity. After witnessing the punishment of traitors, they were eager to see virtue acknowledged and celebrated. It is time to assign a new viscount, King Aldrich declared, his words carrying across the vast gathering. Someone whose help to the kingdom has been invaluable and whose character stands in clear contrast to those we have just executed. Excited whispers rippled through the assembled citizens as they speculated about who might receive such a significant honor. The rank of viscount carried a powerful political authority and social standing within the kingdom's hierarchy. Many of you may know him for his generosity in helping the poor, the king continued, building anticipation with each word. He was also the one who discovered and freed two remarkable talents who have since become treasures of our kingdom, Alyssa and Kip. The crowd began looking around, trying to identify who among them had performed such notable service. Some had already recognized who that was, but some didn't. In the designated seating area, both Alyssa and Kip sat forward with surprise. They naturally knew whom the king was talking about. Shopkeeper Noah, please step forward to receive your title. Noah stood frozen in shock, his mind struggling to process what he had just heard. He had never been told of this development and certainly hadn't expected to become a viscount. The honor came completely without warning, leaving him momentarily speechless. A viscount? Me? When did the king decide this? The crowd's eyes searched for the named individual, many craning their necks to catch sight of the mysterious Noah Carter, who had apparently earned such royal favor. Noah, go, you've earned this, Princess Alara whispered from beside him, her smile indicating she had been aware of her father's intentions. Still stunned, Noah made his way through the crowd toward the platform where King Aldrich waited with obvious satisfaction. Each step felt surreal as thousands of eyes tracked his movement toward what would be a life-changing moment. As he climbed the steps to the royal platform, the crowd began recognizing him. The mysterious shopkeeper with powerful items that healed the sick, and more. King Aldrich smiled warmly as Noah approached, his expression carrying genuine pleasure at being able to reward someone whose service had proved invaluable to the kingdom's security. But instead of commanding Noah to kneel as tradition demanded for anyone receiving a noble title, the king did something that sent shockwaves through the entire crowd, whether noble or not. King Aldrich stood up from his throne and extended his hand toward Noah in greeting. The gesture struck the crowd like a physical blow. A collective gasp rose from thousands of throats as they witnessed something that made them gasp. It was a known tradition in the kingdom. When the king offered his hand as an equal rather than demanding submission, it meant he saw the person before him not as someone inferior, but as someone he genuinely respected and saw as an equal. Chapter 167. Noah the Viscount. Shock rippled through the noble families like waves across a disturbed pond. Aristocratic houses whose bloodlines stretched back centuries stared in disbelief at the unprecedented honor being bestowed upon a merchant. "Impossible. I've served the crown for 40 years and never received such recognition," whispered the Duchess of Westmarch, her voice barely audible in murmurs of the crowd. Count Alderton's face had gone pale as he witnessed honor that exceeded anything granted to his family's generations of loyal service. No one receives the king's hand. No one. But there it was, happening before the eyes of the entire kingdom, their sovereign treating a shopkeeper with the respect typically reserved for foreign royalty or legendary heroes. Noah, still processing the magnitude of the moment, reached out and clasped the king's offered hand. The simple gesture established a relationship of mutual respect that elevated him far beyond his new noble rank. "Viscount Noah," King Aldrich announced to the stunned assembly, his voice carrying pride as he maintained their handshake. "A man whose service to the kingdom has earned not just our gratitude, but our respect." The crowd erupted in thunderous applause, their voices reflecting awe at witnessing history being made. This wasn't just the creation of a new viscount. It was the establishment of a relationship between the king and a person whose help wouldn't only save the kingdom, but elevate it to places that they never dreamed of before. In the designated seating area, other noble families struggled to process what they had witnessed. The handshake between the king and the new viscount continued for several long moments, each second emphasizing the extraordinary nature of the honor being bestowed. When they finally released their grip, the message had been delivered clearly to every witness present. Viscount Noah Carter stood not as a subject who had been elevated, but as an ally who had been acknowledged, and standing in his path was like going against the crown. After that handshake, even the dukes or duchesses didn't dare to try and disrespect or treat him like a subordinate. After the ceremony ended, King Aldrich approached Noah with the practical details that would follow his elevation to nobility. "I'll finalize the bestowment by tomorrow. You'll receive the previous viscount's estate. It's a large property with good farmland and a respectable manor house," the king informed him. Noah nodded, still processing that he was going to suddenly own some noble lands and property. The property and noble land were by no means cheap. It was definitely worth its price in the thousands of golden coins. "You'll also receive a portion of Baron Richard's net worth," the king continued. "After most people have claimed their rightful compensation for his crimes, there should still be a considerable sum remaining." Noah acknowledged the king's words with appropriate gratitude before the crowd began dispersing. The momentous day was ending, but its significance would reshape his future in ways he was only beginning to understand. As he made his way back through the city streets, Lola walked beside him, her invisibility spell still active. Her ruby eyes carried an expression of interest as they walked together. "Are you okay with it?" she asked, her voice carrying genuine curiosity about his feelings regarding such a dramatic change in circumstances. "Okay with what?" Noah responded, though his tone suggested he understood exactly what she meant. They continued walking toward his shop, the familiar route providing comfort after such an overwhelming day. "You know what I mean," Lola replied with a knowing smile. Why are you acting oblivious? The king has clearly tied you down to this kingdom. This means that when danger comes, you will also have to act. You have responsibilities here now. Her observation was accurate. Noble titles came with obligations that extended far beyond mere social status. As a viscount, he would be expected to serve the kingdom during times of crisis. Noah nodded thoughtfully. You're correct that when danger comes, I will act. But that's not because I'm tied down to this kingdom by the title. To be honest, I couldn't care less about noble obligations. The title is useful but not binding in the way she thinks. The reason I would act is because this kingdom has become somewhat dear to me. It has people I've met here and become friends with. That personal connection matters more than the so-called viscount duty. Lola listened with growing understanding as he explained his perspective on the unexpected honor. Also, the viscount title is beneficial to me in practical ways. Noah added with obvious satisfaction. It will save me from noble problems. They won't create difficulties for me after the king's clear display of respect. Furthermore, I have more credibility now, so my shop will definitely increase in reputation. He concluded with a slight smile. This will boost my sales in the long term when I develop more products. Lola nodded, a soft smile gracing her beautiful face, as she understood Noah's perspective on his sudden promotion to nobility. Noah smiled before adding with obvious satisfaction. Besides, how can I be tied down when I have a shop that can change places? The observation struck Lola as particularly astute. His shop provided freedom that no earthbound noble could ever possess, making traditional concepts of territorial obligation largely irrelevant. Lola chuckled at his words, amused by his unique circumstances and approach to his new life. That's true. Not many viscounts can relocate their entire domain to another world when politics become inconvenient. Inside the store, Noah decided to focus on practical development rather than dwelling on political changes. The day's events had reminded him how important personal power remained, regardless of social status. Time to practice, he announced, settling into his familiar training position. I want to work on wind manipulation, mana control, and especially body tempering. I need to raise that skill to level 5 as soon as possible. Body tempering remains my biggest weakness. My vitality remains at 4 for now. Chapter 168. Body Tempering Level 5. Your body tempering skill has reached Level 2. Your body tempering skill has reached Level 3. Seeing the rapid improvement, Noah's determination intensified. He refused to stop until he reached his target level, pushing through the increasingly demanding training to reach his goal of improving his constitution and breaking his limits. The body tempering process had become more challenging for his body as his skill advanced, requiring greater mana expenditure and more focus to achieve meaningful progress. But Noah pressed forward with relentless focus. He paused briefly to eat a loaf of bread when his body began showing signs of exhaustion, the magical healing properties restoring his energy and allowing him to continue the intensive training session. Hours passed in dedicated practice, his mana flowing through increasingly refined pathways as his constitution adapted to handle greater magical stress. Finally, the notification he'd been waiting for appeared. Your body tempering skill has reached Level 5. Host: Noah Carter. Age 28. Shop Level 2. Daily revenue: $295,000, or equivalent. Current assets: $306,640.21. Shop points: 2070. Attributes: Strength: 30. Vitality: 20. Intelligence: 20. Agility: 30. Skills: Swordsmanship, Level 8. Mana Control, Level 7. Wind Manipulation, Level 6. Aura, Level 5. Body Tempering, Level 5. Surviving on Ramen, Level 3. Cooking, Level 2. Programming, Level 2. Gaming, Level 2. Finance, Level 2. Checking his status, Noah smiled with obvious delight at the dramatic improvement in his capabilities. His vitality had finally increased to 20 points, and he could feel the immense difference his body had undergone during the intensive training session. The constitutional enhancement had transformed him on a fundamental level. His joints felt much more resilient, capable of handling stress that would have injured him previously. His muscle density had increased significantly, providing strength that complemented his existing attributes perfectly. Most importantly, he could sense that his bones had become more durable, creating resilience that would allow him to survive serious combat without suffering crippling injuries. Everything about his physical constitution had received massive improvement, which balanced his previously lopsided attribute distribution. "Congratulations!" Multiple voices erupted beside him simultaneously. Noah raised an eyebrow in surprise and turned to discover that Lola wasn't the only one present. Kip and Alyssa were there too, apparently having entered while he was completely absorbed in his training. "Why didn't you inform me?" he asked, looking at Lola. She had a huge smile plastered on her face. She was satisfied with his achievement. Lola maintained her delighted expression before explaining with amusement. "You were too engrossed in your training, and they didn't want to interrupt you either, so we simply waited for you to finish." "How long have I been training? I lost track of time," Noah said, running his fingers through his hair as he processed the gap in his awareness. "It's been about 2 hours since you started. I must say, that's the fastest I've ever seen someone reach novice rank in body tempering." Noah nodded with understanding. "I think it's due to the bread. I ate it when I felt my body was starting to give up during the more intense circulation exercises." Lola nodded in agreement. She naturally understood that part. She was the only one who told him about the shortcut after all. Turning toward Alyssa and Kip, Noah moved his attention to his young friends. "Are you guys done for the day? Don't you have any training or academy responsibilities?" Both cat siblings shook their heads in unison. "No, Master Noah," they replied with obvious respect. Noah sighed with mild exasperation. "Stop calling me Master Noah." Before he could finish his protest, Lola chuckled mischievously. "He's now a Viscount. You should call him Noble Viscount Noah." Her teasing tone carried obvious amusement at Noah's discomfort with formal titles and excessive respect. Noah immediately glared at Lola. "No, stop giving them ideas, Lola. They might actually do it." "Hee." Hearing her giggle, Noah rolled his eyes. "Just call me Noah, okay? We're friends, not lord and servants," he said, addressing the cat siblings gently but firmly. The cat siblings nodded, but he could tell from the look in their eyes that his request was a difficult one. "Grumble." Suddenly, a stomach's grumbling filled the small shop with unmistakable demand for food. Noah glanced down at his own stomach before a wry smile appeared on his face. The training really took its toll. "I'm hungry. Do you guys want to eat?" The intensive body tempering session had consumed significant energy, leaving him with an appetite that reflected the strain his constitution had endured during advancement. Lola nodded with obvious interest. "Why not? I can eat some of the human food. It might be interesting to try more of your kingdom's cuisine." Alyssa looked at Noah shyly before offering with genuine eagerness. "Ma, Noah, I will go get us some meat. Do you want me to cook for you again?" Her hesitation over his name showed she was still adjusting to his request for informal address, while her cooking offer carried the enthusiasm she felt by wanting to contribute meaningfully. Noah looked at Alyssa with a gentle eyebrow raise. "Are you sure? You don't have to. I was just thinking about eating some bread and drinking some iced tea. Nothing too excessive. Simple meal after training." Don't want to impose on her generosity. Alyssa nodded her head eagerly, her silver ears perking up with obvious determination. "Yes, I'm sure. I want to cook for you." She turned toward her brother with the authority of an older sister, making plans. "Kip, let's go get some ingredients to cook something good." Kip nodded, standing up to accompany his sister on their shopping journey. Both cat siblings moved towards the door. In a few seconds, they were out of the shop, leaving Noah alone with Lola and the subtle tension that always seemed to accompany their private conversations. After they left, Lola turned to face Noah with a mischievous look brewing in her ruby eyes. "Alyssa is really cute, isn't she?" she said in a deceptively normal tone. Chapter 169. Aura level 7. Noah nodded in agreement without considering the meaning behind her words. The cat girl really did have an adorable personality that made her a genuinely endearing company. She's sweet and thoughtful, obviously cute in a friendly way. Lola's smirk widened as she realized he'd walked directly into the trap she'd carefully set. Master Noah, do you perhaps like the cute Alyssa? I didn't know you had a thing for cat girls. Huh? What? Noah suddenly realized the trap the succubus had set for him. Understanding exactly what she was implying, he immediately responded. I didn't mean cute that way. He glared at her with indignation. Don't say that in front of her. Things would become awkward. Lola nodded with a mischievous smile, then stood up and walked toward him slowly. It seems like Master Noah is interested in something other than cat girls. She whispered seductively into his ear, her breath warm against his skin. I wonder who the lucky girl is. Noah gulped involuntarily, her proximity and tone making his pulse quicken, despite his attempts to maintain composure. I need to practice my aura skill, he said immediately, trying to distract himself from the succubus's deliberate charm offensive. His aura skill was directly linked to his mana control, and it remained 2 levels behind his other magical abilities. He knew that leveling it up would be relatively easy. He simply needed to circulate the energy a few times with proper focus. Lola chuckled with obvious amusement at his transparent attempt to escape her teasing, then returned to her seat with a satisfied smile. As she watched him settle into practice position, trying to focus on aura circulation rather than her previous comments, she couldn't help but mutter softly with genuine affection. Cute. Noah pretended not to hear her comment while beginning his aura exercises. Your skill aura has reached level 6. Your skill aura has reached level 7. The skill advancement came swiftly, catching up to his mana control level before ceasing to advance further. It took him only about 10 minutes to increase the skills levels. All he had to do was simply adapt to his improved mana control by learning to cover his body more effectively and manipulate the energy with greater control. The aura skill's rapid advancement made sense given its direct connection to mana control. With his current mana control, channeling mana around his body had become significantly easier and more intuitive. 2 skill levels in 5 minutes. Sometimes, having a solid foundation makes everything else fall into place. He glanced at the shelf to check his current inventory levels, noting that his stock had increased to decent quantities during the day's various activities. Nearly 6 hours had passed since the morning's events, and the automated production had steadily refilled his supplies. The bread and iced tea quantities had reached 36 units each, while the premium items, beef jerky, energy drinks, and protein bars, had also reached their maximum capacity of 6 units since restocking after the king's purchases. Noah stood up with a sudden realization that he'd neglected an important responsibility. He hadn't fed Leo today besides a single loaf of bread, and the young golden mane lion deserved proper nutrition after patiently waiting through all the day's excitement. Poor Leo. He's been so patient while I dealt with third-rate villains. The golden mane followed Noah eagerly toward the shelf, his tail swishing with obvious anticipation. Leo clearly expected his usual treats of bread and iced tea, which had become a comfortable routine between them. But his expectations were completely shattered as he spotted his master retrieving different items from the premium displays. Noah had decided to go all out for his faithful companion, taking beef jerky, an energy drink, and a protein bar from his most valuable inventory. The items were worth at least 1,800 golden coins for just one meal. Leo was eating better than the king himself. Lola watched the extravagant feeding session without surprise anymore. Noah had demonstrated such generous treatment of his friends for the past 2 days, making this latest display of affection entirely predictable. Despite not being surprised by his actions, she still couldn't believe how easily he distributed legendary tier enhancement items like casual snacks. Most people would guard a single protein bar with their lives, even against their own family. He's feeding them to a juvenile lion. Leo's reaction to the premium feast was a sight to behold. His golden eyes widened with shock as the first bite of beef jerky flooded his system with vitality enhancement that made his entire body tingle with energy. The young lion let out a small roar of pure pleasure, his tail whipping back and forth with uncontrollable excitement as permanent constitution improvement coursed through his developing frame. Purr roar purr. The energy drink followed, its properties sending the agility boost through Leo's nervous system like liquid lightning. His movements would become more graceful, his reflexes sharper, as the permanent improvement would integrate with his body. Finally, the protein bar completed the transformation. The strength boost that came flooded through Leo's muscles, making him feel more powerful than he'd ever experienced in his short but happy life. Roar. The young golden mane attempted a mighty roar of triumph, though his vocal cords produced something closer to an adorable roar that made both Noah and Lola smile with affection. But the overwhelming surge of enhancement proved too much for Leo's small body to process. The combination of permanent attribute improvements and simple overeating created an irresistible urge to sleep. Leo's eyelids grew heavy as his body demanded rest to properly integrate the extraordinary improvements he'd just received. His legs wobbled slightly before he simply lay down on the shop floor, curling into a comfortable ball. Within moments, soft purring filled the shop as Leo fell into the deep, restorative sleep that would allow his body to fully absorb the legendary enhancements his master had so casually provided. Noah wasn't worried after Lola had told him the young lion was going something called growth sleep. His body simply needed time to adapt to all those permanent improvements before he woke up much more powerful than before. Noah smiled with satisfaction as he watched his companion's peaceful slumber, knowing that Leo would awaken significantly stronger, faster, and more resilient than before. After he finished ensuring Leo was comfortable, the shop door opened with its familiar chime. Alyssa and Kip had returned from their ingredient gathering expedition. Surprisingly, the cat siblings hadn't just purchased raw materials. Alyssa seemed to have already prepared a complete meal. The delicious aroma that preceded their entrance made Noah's mouth water immediately. "I bought the ingredients and went to our house to cook," Alyssa explained, seeing his surprised expression. "It's nearby, so it didn't take long to prepare everything properly." The meal she'd prepared featured Tier 1 magical beast meat, its quality immediately visible from both appearance and scent. The cooking had been expertly done, bringing out flavors that normal meat could never achieve. Noah was excited to eat the food prepared by Alyssa, after all. He had tried her food once before alongside the young goblin, and it was simply amazing. The way the food looked, the way it tasted and smelt. Everything was simply too good. Tier 1 beast meat prepared by Alyssa is going to be special. After finishing the excellent meal, Noah looked at Alyssa with gratitude. "Thank you for the food, Alyssa. That was amazing. Much better than anything I could have prepared myself." Her silver ears twitched with pleasure at the compliment, a soft smile brightening her entire expression as she basked in acknowledgement of her cooking skills. Chapter 170 Yamamoto Kenji. Inside his house, Noah glanced at the time on his phone and felt his stomach drop. "Shit, I'm going to miss the dojo session. Master Tanaka is going to kill me," he muttered in a hurry, frantically packing his gym bag with training clothes and some necessities. Noah had returned home as Lola's shift began, feeling somewhat tired from everything that had happened. The underground conspiracy, public trial, noble investiture, and body-tempering training had made for an exhausting day. But missing his scheduled session with Master Tanaka wasn't an option. The old swordmaster valued punctuality almost as much as technique, and Noah had no desire to face disappointed lectures about commitment and discipline. Noah grabbed his keys and sprinted to his GTR, the engine roaring to life as he reversed out of his driveway with perhaps more speed than necessary. He zoomed through the highway, weaving between slower traffic with the enhanced reflexes his agility allowed for. The sports car's performance capabilities matched his urgency perfectly as he raced against time. Of course, his actions were completely safe. He didn't put anyone's life at risk. To his immense relief, he arrived at Musashi's dojo with minutes to spare, sliding into the parking lot just as other students were beginning their evening routines. Warm-up and preparation. Noah entered the familiar wooden building, taking his shoes off respectfully before moving to the equipment area to retrieve his practice sword. He began with basic warm-ups that had become second nature over the weeks of his training. Quick strikes cut through the air, and each movement was designed to activate muscle memory and prepare his body for the upcoming intensive work. Swish, swish, swish. The practice blade traced the air as Noah worked through the fundamental sequences. Soft flowing strikes that focused on control over power, low sweeping cuts that engaged his core muscles, and high overhead strikes that stretched his shoulders and back. His high attributes made the warm-up exercises feel almost effortless, but Noah maintained proper form rather than rushing through the preparation. Master Tanaka had drilled into him that foundation work remained essential regardless of his power. Whoosh! Snap! The final warm-up sequences focused on cardiovascular preparation, quick combination strikes that elevated his heart rate and circulated blood through muscles that would soon face some serious testing. Around the dojo, other students paused their own preparation to observe Noah's warm-up routine. His movements had evolved significantly since his first appearance around a week ago. His strikes were now much more deadly, much more precise. It was as if he had been training with the sword since he was in his mother's womb. As he finished his training, Master Tanaka approached with his slow strides, the practice sword already in hand. "Ready?" the master asked simply, settling into his opening stance. Noah nodded, drawing his own blade and assuming the defensive position that had become his preferred starting point for their sparring sessions. It had become routine that once Noah and Master Tanaka began sparring, every other student in the dojo stopped their individual training to watch. The matches had become legendary among the student body. It was an opportunity to witness techniques that they would never witness during normal training. Clang! Their blades met in the opening exchange, Master Tanaka testing Noah's defensive capabilities with accurate strikes that asked for his immediate response. The impact sent vibrations through both weapons as they clashed. Swish! Whoosh! Noah flowed into a counterattack sequence, his blade cutting through the air with speed that made several watching students gasp with amazement. No matter how many times they've seen him move, they were shocked every single time. Despite the attack's insane speed, Master Tanaka's experience and own agility allowed him to read the incoming strikes, his defensive positioning negating Noah's strike. Naturally, the negation came at a cost. Noah's strike sent vibrations that made his arm numb for a second before he regained control. Crack! Clang! Your footwork is getting better. You are no longer relying on your speed alone, Tanaka called between exchanges, his blade work never slowing as he provided instruction through demonstration. Whoosh! Swish! The pace accelerated as both fighters found their own rhythm. Noah's agility allowed him to match movements that should have been beyond his experience level, while Tanaka's mastery provided lessons that made every strike purposeful. Clang! Swish! Crack! Their wooden swords created a rhythm that filled the dojo, each impact demonstrating the evolution of Noah's capabilities since their training began. What had started as a new swordsman wanting to learn from the master had become much more than that. Whoosh! Master Tanaka's combination attack came in 3 flowing strikes. Low, middle, then high, completely contradicting his previous strike patterns during other spars. Noah was momentarily caught off guard. He didn't expect it, but he quickly regained his stance and defended it successfully at the last second. Master Tanaka smiled and nodded his head approvingly. Good job! Each transition of attacks was seamless and perfectly timed. Noah's reflexes allowed him to intercept each blow, his defensive work drawing impressed murmurs from the watching students. Crack! Clang! Swish! Excellent defense! Tanaka approved, immediately pressing into another assault that tested different aspects of Noah's developing skill. Now counterattack! Whoosh! Snap! Noah's response came as a spinning technique that utilized his full agility enhancement, the blade creating a complete circle that forced Tanaka to step back. Otherwise, he would certainly be injured by the power and speed of the strike. Whish! The attack barely grazed him, causing some blood to drop down from his cheek. Continue, he said, ignoring the little blood flowing from his cheek. Noah nodded, respecting his master's wish. Swish! Clang! That technique! Where did you learn it? Tanaka asked with obvious interest, his blade intercepting Noah's follow-up strikes while his analytical mind catalogued the unusual movement. Instinct, Noah replied honestly, his level 8 swordsmanship skill allowing for combinations that felt natural despite limited formal training. Crack. Whoosh. The final exchange showcased both fighters at their peak capabilities. Master Tanaka's experience met Noah's supernatural enhancement in a display of swordwork that left every watching student mesmerized by the sheer skill on display. Clang. Both blades stopped simultaneously, their tips mere inches from each other's vital points in a perfect mutual finish that demonstrated respect rather than victory. Good job. That was much better than before, Master Tanaka complimented earnestly. Thank you, Master. Noah nodded, a smile on his face, accepting the compliment. As they lowered their weapons, Master Tanaka gestured toward a figure Noah hadn't noticed before, an elderly Japanese man who had been sitting quietly in the corner, observing their sparring session with obvious interest. Noah, I'd like you to meet Master Yamamoto Kenji. I've told him about your talent, progress, and that very soon I would be unable to keep teaching you. He didn't believe me when I said that your talent is even better than my old bones. So, I've brought him here to watch, and from his expression alone, you can tell what he thinks. Master Yamamoto rose from his position gracefully. Despite his old age, Noah could tell that he had the same power, if not more, than Tonka. Chapter 171. Tournament. Student Noah, your talent is truly impressive, Yamamoto said simply, pausing for a second to evaluate Noah before continuing. Your student shows remarkable development, Tanaka-san. He's exceeded my every expectation, which brings us to why you're here today, Tanaka replied with obvious pride. Master Yamamoto studied Noah with a calculating gaze. Tell me, young man, how do you feel about testing your abilities against opponents beyond this dojo's walls? Noah raised an eyebrow, sensing something significant approaching. What kind of testing? A tournament, but not the public competitions you might expect, Tanaka explained. Master Yamamoto stepped forward, his expression growing more serious. We're talking about a private tournament. Invitation only. The kind of event where extraordinary talent meets extraordinary people. Noah paused for a second, evaluating the man in front of him carefully. The master's bearing suggested someone connected to martial arts circles far beyond anything he'd previously encountered. A private tournament with extraordinary people. Seems like Earth isn't as normal as I thought it was. It might have some hidden masters, although I doubt it's anything above the apprentice rank at best. Then he nodded after making his decision. He wanted to see what this tournament was about, and it would undoubtedly be beneficial for advancing his swordsmanship skills further. All right, I accept, Noah declared without hesitation. Whatever this tournament involves, it represents an opportunity to test my abilities against serious opponents. Master Yamamoto nodded with obvious satisfaction, his expression suggesting he'd expected exactly that response. Anyone with a true passion for swordsmanship would accept such an offer. Your enthusiasm confirms our assessment of your character. You don't have to worry about preparation details for now. When the tournament begins in about a few days, I will personally come to the dojo to find you. Then we will travel together to the area, Yamamoto explained. Noah nodded casually, not thinking too deeply about the implications of such personalized attention from someone who was clearly a significant figure in martial arts circles. A week from now. Perfect timing. In his mind, Noah calculated his likely progression over the next 7 days. With his current advancement rate and training schedule, his swordsmanship would most likely reach apprentice rank by tournament time. Level 10 swordsmanship means apprentice rank. That should provide a solid foundation for whatever competition awaits. After they concluded their discussion, Noah took advantage of the dojo's facilities to clean up properly. The shower washed away the sweat from intensive sparring while giving him time to simply relax. He changed into fresh clothes from his gym bag, feeling refreshed and ready for the evening's remaining obligations. As he prepared to leave the dojo, Noah remembered his dinner commitment. Aunt May had invited him for a family meal, and after the day's excitement, spending time with relatives sounded like exactly the kind of normalcy he needed. Family dinner. A chance to decompress and act like a regular person for a few hours. He made his way to his GTR, the sports car providing comfortable transportation as he drove through the city toward his aunt's house. After enjoying some time with his aunt, Ethan, and Uncle Smith, Noah headed home feeling refreshed from normal family interaction. Tomorrow, he would be picking up his dad from the hospital, a moment he'd been anticipating since witnessing the miraculous effects of the bread in his shop. Finally bringing Dad home healthy. That alone makes everything worthwhile. The next day, Noah woke up to the familiar chime of his system's daily notifications. Daily income rewarded.
$165,000 và Tier 5 win-off.
The wind orb materialized in his storage ring, bringing his total collection to 4 of the legendary artifacts. For Tier 5 wind orbs, I think it's overkill at this point. I might have to switch back to dollars. I really want to get the idle room already. Noah checked his status, curious to see how Lola's night shift had performed, and was amazed by what he discovered. Host: Noah Carter. Age 28. Shop level 2. Daily revenue: $295,000, or equivalent. Current assets: $577,640.21. Shop points: 4,190. Attributes: Strength, 30. Vitality, 20. Intelligence, 20. Agility, 30. Skills: Swordsmanship, level 8. Mana Control, level 7. Aura, level 7. Wind Manipulation, level 6. Body Tempering, level 5. Surviving on Ramen, level 3. Cooking, level 2. Programming, level 2. Gaming, level 2. Finance, level 2. His shop points had increased by a whopping 2,400 points during the time he slept. Furthermore, his monetary assets had increased by $285,000, which included his daily income of $165,000 plus additional sales revenue. Lola really worked hard during the night. These numbers are incredible. Auto Iced Tea Maker, level 3. Production rate: 4 iced teas every hour. Max stock: 96. Progress: 84/400. Auto Baker, level 4. Production rate: 8 loaves every hour. Max stock: 96. Progress: 144/400. Checking his automakers revealed the scope of Lola's successful night shift. She had nearly sold the entire iced tea inventory, 68 bottles completely depleted during her shift. Even more impressively, she had sold 144 loaves of bread, representing an extraordinary sales volume that exceeded anything he'd achieved during daytime operations. 144 bread sales in one night. That's incredible productivity. The massive sales numbers made perfect sense when Noah considered recent developments. His new fame as a Viscount, combined with the public trial's revelation of his role in exposing the conspiracy, had generated enormous public interest in his mysterious shop. Furthermore, the increased production rate also played a massive role. Word was spreading throughout the kingdom about the modest store that sold powerful magical enhancement items, and day by day, more people were learning about his nighttime operating hours. Feeling excellent about how the day was beginning, Noah got up from his bed and made his way to the shower. The warm water helped him fully wake up while he planned his schedule around the important hospital visit. After cleaning up, he decided to share a quick breakfast with Lola before picking up his father. A meal of bread and iced tea would provide both sustenance and an opportunity to thank her for the exceptional work she'd done overnight. He arrived at the shop to find Lola looking satisfied during her productive shift. Her ruby eyes brightened as she spotted him appearing. "Good morning," she greeted with obvious pleasure at seeing him. "I hope you don't mind, but I got a bit aggressive with sales last night." Noah laughed as he retrieved breakfast items from his restocked inventory. "Aggressive is an understatement. You sold almost everything we had in stock." They shared the magical breakfast for about 10 minutes, the enhanced bread and iced tea providing perfect nutrition while they discussed the night's remarkable success. "The customers kept coming," Lola explained between bites. "Word has definitely spread about your shop. Many people specifically asked about the Viscount's magical store." Noah nodded, listening to her relaying the things that had happened during the day. He glanced at the stock and realized there was enough for the representative of Alara and Valeria when they arrive soon. Make sure there is enough for them when they arrive. Like before, 24 of each for both of them. Also, tell them that the stock has increased for the bread. They can double their purchasing power for the bread only. The iced tea remains the same. He allowed them to purchase more bread because it had a higher production rate, meaning he would still have some to sell to citizens. As for the iced tea, it had a slower production rate. Hence he decided to keep half the stock for the citizens since there was more traffic now. After eating, he excused himself and returned back to Earth, ready to take his father out of the hospital. Chapter 172. Alan is out of the hospital. Inside the hospital, Noah entered the ward with excitement building in his chest. The white corridors that had become routine over recent weeks would soon be just a memory rather than a regular destination. He found his dad sitting in the bedside chair, a calm, serene look on his face as he sipped coffee and read the morning news. The transformation was remarkable. He was no longer the weakened man who had struggled with his daily basic activities. Rather, in his place sat someone who looked like he was in complete tranquility, radiating the health and vitality that the magical beef jerky had restored. He looks 20 years younger. The beef jerky worked even better than I hoped. Noah smiled at the peaceful scene, feeling deep satisfaction at witnessing his father's complete recovery from illnesses that had seemed insurmountable just days ago. Good morning, Dad. Are you ready to go home? Alan Carter looked up from his newspaper, his face brightening with a smile that carried energy Noah hadn't seen in months. He stood up with ease, no longer requiring the slow movements of someone managing chronic pain and weakness. More than ready. I've been looking forward to this, Alan replied with obvious enthusiasm. Noah and Alan made their way to the discharge department, walking through the hospital's corridors. As they walked, Alan provided updates on the final medical evaluations that had sealed his release. The tests were all conducted yesterday after you left. This morning, early, the doctors came to tell me about the miraculous healing I'd undergone. Dr. Thompson actually used the word unprecedented. Alan continued with amusement. He kept asking what kind of treatment I'd been receiving, but I stuck to our agreement about keeping your supplements private. Everything checked out perfectly, Alan concluded as they approached the discharge desk. Blood work normal, neurological function excellent, cardiovascular health much better than men half my age. I can leave after completing the checkout procedures. Complete constitutional recovery. The beef jerky's permanent vitality enhancement worked exactly as intended. The discharge process proceeded smoothly, with medical staff expressing amazement at Alan's remarkable recovery while processing the paperwork that would officially end his extended hospital stay. Within 30 minutes, father and son walked out of the medical facility together, both satisfied. The discharge department informed Noah that the remaining medical billing would arrive at his address within the next week or so. Despite his payments covering the past 2 weeks of treatment, the earlier months of on and off payments had accumulated charges that weren't covered by him. The balance should arrive by mail, the administrative clerk explained. But Noah couldn't care less about the financial burden. He estimated that the bill wouldn't exceed $50,000 total. By the time the week rolled around and the invoice arrived, he wouldn't be worrying about such meager amounts at all. The daily income of nearly $300,000 from being idle alone makes hospital bills feel like pocket change. After completing the discharge procedures, father and son naturally felt the need to celebrate this momentous recovery. But first, Alan expressed a desire to shower and change into his own clothes after weeks of hospital gowns and institutional routines. I want to feel human again. Real clothes, calm shower. Real life. Simple pleasures that hospital stays make you appreciate differently. The living situation had become complicated during Alan's extended hospitalization. After losing his job due to extended absence, Alan had also lost their family house when medical bills consumed their savings and rent payments became impossible. During that crisis period, Noah had salvaged whatever he could from their family home. His father's clothes, personal belongings, and sentimental items and stored everything in his small apartment. When Noah had recently moved to his new house, he had carefully transferred those rescued possessions, ensuring his father would have familiar belongings when he finally came home healthy. At least he'll have his own things. Some continuity despite everything that's changed. Inside his new house, Noah prepared a quick but nutritious meal for his father's first home-cooked food in weeks. The dish naturally incorporated healing bread from his storage ring, providing both flavor and continued magical enhancement to support his father's recovery. One more dose of healing properties can't hurt. Might as well ensure his improvement continues. In the living room, Alan discovered that his son had prepared an amazing meal that filled the house with appetizing aromas. The bread was prominently featured alongside other carefully chosen ingredients. Alan noticed the magical bread but didn't ask questions about its unusual properties or obvious expense. Everyone had their own secrets, and if his son wanted to share details about his mysterious food sources, he would do so voluntarily. He's still the same person. That's what matters, Alan thought. Alan had learned not to pry into matters that didn't affect their fundamental relationship. His son remained the caring young man he'd raised, and that consistency mattered more than unexplained luxuries or unusual things. After they finished the welcome home meal, Noah suggested they needed to celebrate the successful recovery properly. "This calls for a real celebration," Noah declared with a smile on his face. Alan nodded enthusiastically. "Indeed. You know what? I loved cooking back in the old days. Why don't we prepare a meal together? And we should invite your aunt and her family over for dinner." His face brightened with energy as he continued planning. "This way we can celebrate here, as a family, rather than going somewhere impersonal." Noah nodded immediately, accepting his dad's proposal. "That's a perfect idea, Dad. Family dinner at home. Much better than a restaurant celebration. And with my items, it would be healthier." The suggestion offered multiple benefits. Quality bonding time with his father in the kitchen, an opportunity to increase his cooking skill to level 3, and a chance to create new positive memories after months of medical crisis. Time together doing something we both enjoy. Exactly what we need. The duo headed out to a large supermarket to gather ingredients for their celebratory family feast. They moved through the aisles with enthusiasm, selecting ingredients without the budget constraints that had previously limited their choices. Shopping without worrying about every dollar. It feels good. Their cart was filled with high-quality beef, fresh chicken, seasonal vegetables, ripe fruits, beverages, and an array of spices. The total price came to about $300, but the quantity and quality would provide meals for approximately a week while ensuring their celebration dinner would be truly impressive. As they loaded their purchases into Noah's car, both father and son felt satisfied about planning something positive together after so long. Arriving back home, the duo called up Aunt May. Aunt May, who didn't know about the changes that had occurred for the past 2 days, immediately rejoiced at the news of Alan healing up. When she heard that they were also inviting them for dinner, she rejected, saying that she should be inviting them over and that Alan should relax. After some bickering, Aunt May surrendered to Alan's plan and told them that she would be there for lunch. Uncle Smith and Ethan were off since it was a holiday, which made it a perfect time. With that concluded, the son and father began cooking their meal. Chapter 173, Lunchtime, Level 3 Cooking Skill. Time passed by slowly, and lunchtime arrived with perfect timing. Noah had already sent Ethan the address of his new house, and his aunt's family was making their way over for the celebratory meal. Ring ring. The doorbell chimed at exactly the right moment. Noah and Alan had just finished preparing their elaborate feast, the kitchen filled with aromatic evidence of their collaborative cooking efforts. On his way to the door, Noah smiled at the notification that appeared before him a minute ago. "Your cooking skill has reached level 3. It seemed like his cooking for his dad earlier, and cooking with him had paid its dues not only in filial piety but also in evolving his skill. Noah opened the door to find Aunt May's family waiting with warm smiles and obvious curiosity about his new living situation. "Noah!" Aunt May exclaimed, immediately stepping inside whilst checking the house with obvious approval. "This place is beautiful. Congratulations on your business success. Her eyes took in the spacious interior, quality furnishings, and general atmosphere of prosperity that marked such a dramatic change from his previous cramped apartment. She felt incredibly proud of her nephew and wished him even more success. He deserved it. Thank you, Auntie, Noah replied with appreciation for her enthusiasm. And thank you again for treating Ethan so well, she continued, her gratitude filled with mother-like warmth. That computer setup and everything else you bought him. It's made such a difference in his life. Small investments in family happiness. Always worth it. Noah accepted her thanks graciously before leading them inside toward the dining area where the feast awaited. He exchanged a fist bump with his cousin and a hug with his uncle. Noah immediately noticed how much better Ethan looked compared to their meeting a week or so ago. The young man's posture radiated confidence rather than the dejected slump that had been his post-breakup depression. You look great, man, Noah observed with genuine approval. Much better than last time. Ethan grinned with obvious pride. I've been focusing on my studies and my goal of becoming a pro esports player. Adversity transformed into achievement. He's got the potential to be something good kid. Noah felt happy for his cousin. He just needed a little push to stabilize himself. And check this out, one of the professional teams is actually thinking of recruiting me. They've been watching my gameplay and think I have potential. Ethan had a huge smile on his face as he spoke. Noah's eyebrows rose with impressed surprise. That's incredible. Professional gaming recruitment. Yeah, and I've also started streaming regularly. My skills have caught attention online, and I'm averaging about 200 daily viewers on the streaming platform. 200 daily viewers. That's actually impressive for a new streamer. The income isn't available yet, but I should start earning after signing a contract with them, which they promised would arrive tomorrow. Ethan added with obvious satisfaction at his growing independence. Uncle Smith and the rest of the family settled around the dining table as Noah and Alan presented their culinary masterpiece. The main dishes featured perfectly prepared beef and chicken, seasoned with perfection. Whilst cooking with his father, Noah noticed that Alan really had some good cooking experience. He reckoned that if his father had a system, it would evaluate him at level 3 in cooking, which Noah had just reached recently. The beef and chicken might have appeared to be the main components of the meal, but in truth, they were not. The real star was the bread. Noah had sneakily incorporated bread, allowing his family members to earn an attribute point in vitality and a short-term increase in their regeneration. Family members are about to receive permanent attribute improvements without realizing it. Uncle Smith bit into the magical bread, and his eyes widened immediately. This bread, it's extraordinary. The texture, the flavor, it's like nothing from any bakery I know. As the meal progressed, subtle changes became apparent in his family members' demeanor and energy levels. Aunt May's usual afternoon fatigue disappeared entirely, making her more energetic than she was normally. Uncle Smith's chronic back pain, which typically made him shift uncomfortably during extended sitting, seemed to vanish. He sat straighter and moved more freely. The bread's vitality enhancement is working exactly as intended. I feel amazing, Aunt May declared as they finished the main course. Like I could run a marathon or clean the entire house without getting tired. Same here, Uncle Smith agreed, rolling his shoulders experimentally. My back hasn't felt this good in decades. Whatever you two did in that kitchen, it worked miracles. Thank you for the amazing meal. It's been great. Alan observed his family's remarkable energy with knowing satisfaction, understanding exactly what his son had done without needing explanations. His own experience with magical enhancement made the effects obvious despite their subtle presentation. This has been the best family dinner we've had in years, Aunt May declared with obvious emotion. Everyone feels so alive. The celebration had achieved every goal Noah had hoped for. His father's successful homecoming, family bonding through shared cooking, and improving his close relatives' health without them knowing. After lunch finished, the family began making their gracious departures. Each member took time to express their heartfelt wishes to Alan for his continued health and recovery. Take care of yourself, Alan. You look wonderful, but don't overdo anything too soon, Aunt May said warmly. Uncle Smith nodded in agreement. Rest is important, even when you're feeling great. Hospital recovery takes time. Ethan added his own wishes. Get plenty of rest, Uncle Alan. Thanks for the amazing meal. They wanted to give Alan space to relax and adjust to being home again. Even though he felt remarkably well, they understood that transitioning from hospital life back to normal routine required time and patience. They were a thoughtful family. They knew when to give someone space to recover properly. With warm farewells and promises to visit again soon, Aunt May's family departed, leaving father and son alone in their quiet house. Noah turned toward his father with consideration. I'll clean the dishes later, Dad. Don't worry about them. I have some work to do in my room. I'll probably be busy for a while. Do you need anything from me? Give him time to rest while I handle my shop matters. Lola's shift has already ended a few minutes ago. His dad shook his head with a contented smile, the food enhancement still providing energy that made him feel decades younger.
No, son.
You can go do your thing. I'm perfectly fine. Noah nodded with satisfaction and headed toward his room, ready to check on his shop operations and continue his training routine. As Noah disappeared into his room, Alan looked around the kitchen with energy coursing through his body. Despite his son's thoughtful offer to handle cleanup later, Alan felt too energetic to simply sit idle. I feel better than I have in years. Might as well put this energy to good use. He sneakily entered the kitchen and began washing the dishes. The simple domestic task felt satisfying after being bedridden in the hospital for so long. Good to be useful again. Good to be home. Chapter 174, Level 8. Arriving at the shop, Noah immediately apologized to Lola for his lateness. He had been about 10 minutes behind schedule, and instead of finding her relaxing after her shift ended, he discovered her still dutifully seated behind the counter. I'm sorry for being late, Noah said with genuine regret. Some things ran longer than expected. She's been working extra time because of my poor scheduling. He looked at her with sincere appreciation before adding, if something like this happens again, just close the store and don't worry about it. Your shift time should be respected. Lola shook her head with a dismissive smile, her ruby eyes carrying amusement at his concern. Don't worry about it, it was merely a few minutes. Not a big deal at all. Noah smiled in thanks and turned his attention to checking the current inventory levels, curious about sales performance during his absence. Lola provided a comprehensive report on the day's business activities. The representatives from both the Royal Guard and Valeria's Guild came for their daily orders. They took their usual 24 iced teas and 24 bread loaves each. Noah nodded, expecting that much. I also told them about the increased bread production capacity like you've told me. They were both quite happy to hear about the expanded availability. She continued, so starting with their next payment, they'll be purchasing 24 iced teas and 48 bread loaves each, Lola concluded. Noah nodded with approval. The increased order sizes would provide substantial revenue growth while maintaining the stable relationships he'd built with major customers. Doubled bread orders from 2 major clients. Coupled with the regular customers, I can easily sell more than 96 bread daily. The stock had been completely depleted during Lola's shift. Both bread and iced tea inventories showed 0 remaining units. With nothing available for immediate sale, Noah's options were limited to practicing his skills or waiting for wealthy customers interested in premium items. Empty shelves mean successful sales, but they also mean there is nothing to do until production catches up. Host: Noah Carter. Age 28. Shop Level 2. Daily revenue: $295,000 or equivalent. Current assets: $625,640.21. Shop points: 50-30. Attributes: Strength, 30. Vitality, 20. Intelligence, 20. Agility, 30. Skills: Swordsmanship, Level 8. Mana Control, Level 7. Aura, Level 7. Wind Manipulation, Level 6. Body Tempering, Level 5. Surviving on Ramen, Level 3. Cooking, Level 3. Programming, Level 2. Gaming, Level 2. Finance, Level 2. Checking his progress, Noah noted he had reached the halfway point toward the 10,000 shop points required for upgrading to shop Level 3. Getting the remaining points would be easy given his current sales momentum, so he wasn't worried about meeting that milestone. 50-30 out of 10,000 shop points. Halfway there already. His monetary assets had skyrocketed to $625,640, a figure that was surely climbing towards the 1 million mark he'd been waiting for. With no immediate business tasks demanding attention, Noah walked toward the premium item shelf and retrieved a package of beef jerky. It was time to consume his enhancement item and bring his vitality up to match his other attributes at the 30-point mark. Time to balance my stats properly. Without further hesitation, he unwrapped the magical jerky and consumed it, feeling the warmth of permanent vitality enhancement flooding through his entire body. Leo remained surprisingly asleep near the counter, but the young golden mane looked completely relaxed and peaceful. Noah wasn't worried about the extended nap. Such magical enhancement often required recovery sleep for proper integration. With his constitution now properly enhanced, Noah decided to maximize his available time through magical training. With multiple Tier 5 wind orbs in his possession, it would be wasteful not to utilize them for skill advancement. For wind orbs, time to make serious progress. An hour of focus practice with the concentrated wind essence yielded excellent results. The magical energy flowed through his enhanced pathways as his understanding of wind manipulation deepened. Your wind manipulation skill has reached Level 7. The advancement brought him closer to the next milestone, each improvement making his magical combat effectiveness more formidable. After he improved his wind manipulation to Level 7, Noah found himself hesitant about what skill to focus on next. He was stuck between working on his swordsmanship and continuing to advance his wind manipulation abilities. Both skills offered valuable benefits for his upcoming challenges. Swordsmanship would provide direct combat effectiveness for the mysterious tournament, while wind manipulation offered versatile magical capabilities that could complement his physical abilities. Lola, who had been relaxing by watching him practice with obvious interest, decided to offer her perspective on his training dilemma. You should keep practicing your wind manipulation. It will be most useful for you in the long run, she advised as someone whose decades of experience provided valuable insight. While you'll be safe with me around, you want to build your own independent strength. Elemental manipulation of the wind attribute will help tremendously because it's incredibly versatile, she continued with a slight smile. She gestured toward the shop's ceiling as if indicating the broader kingdom beyond. Look at the king of the human kingdom. You've seen what he was able to do with advanced wind magic. King Aldrich's capabilities were impressive. Levitation, barriers, powerful attacks, all through wind manipulation. Noah nodded with understanding. Her reasoning made perfect sense. Wind manipulation offered defensive capabilities, mobility options, utility applications, and offensive potential that could adapt to virtually any situation he might encounter. You're absolutely right, he acknowledged gratefully. Thank you for the guidance. Noah settled back into his meditation position, retrieving a wind orb to continue his elemental training with focus and purpose. Another hour and around 10 minutes of concentrated practice yielded excellent results. The magical energy felt increasingly natural as it flowed through his pathways, responding to his will. Your wind manipulation skill has reached Level 8. The difference between Level 6 and Level 8 was worth the hard work. Noah had learned a useful basic spell that expanded his magical repertoire significantly. He had mastered a particularly practical technique called Featherfall. The spell slowed descent by channeling wind currents underneath his feet. The ability used minimal mana while providing enormous utility for both combat and everyday situations. Featherfall, perfect for avoiding fall damage. The spell would be incredibly useful even in normal Earth life, offering safety during any situation involving heights or unexpected drops. After reaching Level 8 with his wind manipulation skill, Noah decided to increase his mana control. His mana control skill was at Level 7, and increasing it to Level 10 would increase his intelligence attribute by a significant amount that he did not know of yet. 2 hours passed, during which Noah kept the shop closed for a specific reason. He was waiting for his automakers to produce a sufficient stock before opening for sales. It was far more efficient to sell in bulk rather than reopen every hour just to move a few items. Closing, practicing his skills, then reopening repeatedly simply didn't make sense. In those 2 hours, he had leveled up his mana control to level 8. Now, his 3 powerful skills had reached level 8. Wind manipulation, mana control, and swordsmanship. Chapter 175, Hunting with Alyssa and Kip. Your aura skill has reached level 8. Noah spent around 5 minutes allowing his aura skill to catch up with his mana control level. The energy flowed more smoothly around his body now, creating a protective layer that felt as natural as breathing. With his daily magical practice nearly complete, Noah considered working on his swordsmanship but decided against it. Checking his inventory revealed that production had accumulated quite nicely during his extended training session. He had been practicing for about 4 hours, and during that time his premium enhancement items had returned to their official maximum of 12 units each. Meanwhile, his bread had accumulated 32 loaves and his iced tea had reached 16 bottles. 48 items from normal stock plus potentially some premium sales. Good opportunity to open the shop. With sufficient inventory to serve customers, Noah decided to open his store to the public once again. The poor people he had helped previously had been healed by his magical bread, but others in similar desperate circumstances had arrived to replace them. Noah decided to continue his charitable efforts, though he wouldn't jeopardize his shop's progress or his own advancement. Noah decided to help people without compromising his business sustainability. He established a daily policy of giving away 5 loaves of bread to those who needed healing most desperately. His judgment criteria came from asking the community within the alleyway marketplace. After being under siege from demon attacks for so long, the poor people had developed remarkable solidarity. Even those who desperately needed healing would often insist that others receive help first if their conditions were more severe. They represented true community spirit. They look out for each other despite their own needs. Hence, Noah distributed 5 loaves of bread as a small charity. In the larger scope of his operations, it represented only 2.5% of his daily production. Too insignificant to impact his business or self-improvement while providing meaningful help to those who needed it most. The recipients proved remarkably understanding and grateful. They thanked him sincerely without demanding more or attempting to exploit his generosity. Once the 5 charitable loaves were distributed, they all departed quietly to continue their daily struggles as they always had. They had dignified gratitude. They appreciate help without becoming dependent. After completing his charitable distribution, Noah began serving paying customers who had arrived seeking his product's remarkable effects. He established a strict policy against bulk purchases for new customers. Common sense told him that allowing large quantities could lead to resale at inflated prices, undermining both his pricing structure and customer access. Prevent price gouging while maintaining fair access for everyone. The customers naturally couldn't argue with a Viscount's business policies. Even before his noble elevation, few had dared challenge his shop rules, and his new royal recognition made resistance completely unthinkable. They purchased their single loaves of bread and departed without complaint. If someone chose to resell their individual purchase at a higher prices, that became the buyer's responsibility rather than Noah's concern. Market forces are beyond my control. I provide fair access. What happens after that isn't my problem. Clearly, his shop operated nearly 20 hours daily with consistent pricing. Anyone willing to pay inflated resale prices could simply visit his store directly and purchase at standard rates. It wasn't like he had no supply. The supply was definitely there. Availability and fairness eliminate most justification for price manipulation. Shortly after the regular customers departed, familiar faces appeared at his shop entrance. Kip and Alyssa arrived together, accompanied by Valeria. The cat siblings plus the guild master entered his shop and greeted him. "Noah," Alyssa called with obvious enthusiasm. "You are here. We were hoping to find you." Kip nodded eagerly beside his sister. Both siblings had grown significantly stronger, and Noah was still getting used to the fact that the little cat boy who was weak and frail was now stronger than him. Valeria stepped forward. We're planning a hunting expedition to keep our combat skills sharp. The demon attacks have decreased lately, but that means we need alternative training opportunities. Practical training through real combat. Much more effective than simple practice. Would you like to join us? Alyssa asked hopefully. It would be a good experience for your swordsmanship development, and we could just hang out. Then, as if realizing something, she immediately stammered. Oh, of course, if you are busy, you won't have to worry about it. We can maybe hang out another time if you would like. Noah considered the invitation carefully. He had sold most of his current stock, and real combat experience would complement his formal training perfectly. The upcoming tournament made practical fighting experience even more valuable. It would be a good opportunity to go out and explore the human realm monsters. After thinking it through, Noah realized he had sold enough inventory to justify closing early, and the hunting expedition offered exactly the kind of experience his development needed. I'll come, he decided with a soft nod. He turned toward Lola, who had been observing the conversation with obvious interest. Do you want to come with us? Lola's smile carried familiar mischief as she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow reached only his ears despite Valeria standing mere feet away. Of course I want to stay close to my boss, she murmured with amusement. I couldn't possibly let you venture out alone with two such beautiful and capable women. What if one of them decided to steal you away from me? Her whispered words were most definitely carried with magic, so that even Valeria's enhanced senses couldn't detect the conversation, creating an intimate moment within the group setting. Noah felt his cheeks warm slightly at her deliberately provocative statement, though he tried to maintain professional composure in front of their guests. She never misses an opportunity to tease. At least she's consistent. Great, he managed, keeping his voice steady despite Lola's proximity. Let's go hunting. The expedition promised combat experience, skill development, and a chance to hang out with friends. Chapter 176. Fighting Tier 1 Monster. As they walked towards the city gate, Noah noticed how peaceful the streets had become. The attacks on the human kingdom had almost completely ceased, a stark contrast to the constant threat that had defined daily life just weeks ago. Clearly, the devastating raid that King Aldrich had led against the underground base had dealt a massive blow to the extremist organization. They had lost nearly 50 operatives of various ranks, plus a master-level demon commander. They were casualties that represented a significant portion of their operational capability. 50 extremists plus a master-level leader. That's probably half their local forces eliminated in one strike. The king hadn't been content with simply disrupting their immediate operations. After such a successful attack against the demon extremists, he had reinforced the city's defenses with unprecedented thoroughness. Masters now stood guard at the east, west, south, and north directions of the city walls. The deployment of 4 master-level defenders represented an enormous commitment of the kingdom's most valuable military assets. With 4 masters guarding the walls, the king was taking no chances with the demon's retaliation. The guards at the gate greeted Valeria and her group with respect. When they spotted Noah among the party, their demeanor changed to the courtesy appropriate for addressing nobility. Good afternoon, Viscount Noah. Safe travels on your expedition, the gate captain said with a respectful bow. Noah returned the greeting politely before their group continued toward the hunting grounds outside the city's protective walls. Unlike the Demon Kingdom, where hunting areas were carefully guarded and regulated, the human kingdom couldn't afford such extensive security measures. Once you ventured beyond the walls into monster territory, you were entirely responsible for your own safety. They arrived at a region where Tier 1 monsters typically spawned, the landscape shifting from human-cultivated farmland to wild forest that harbored creatures drawn by concentrated mana. The monsters in this area turned out to be wolves, though they differed significantly from ordinary animals. These were called dark wolves, named for their distinctive black fur. Tier 1 magical beasts, perfect for warm-up exercises. Valeria surveyed the area, noting several wolf shapes moving through the wild forest ahead. Warm up with these. They should get you in the mood for real combat. Then we'll move up to the Tier 2 monsters further ahead. She instructed her companions. Noah nodded, drawing his sword from his scabbard. The dark wolves emerged from the forest shadows, having detected the approaching humans. 3 wolves separated from the pack, each selecting a different target as if they had coordinated their attack beforehand. Noah and the 2 cat siblings didn't complain. That was better suited for their warm-ups. Anyway, Alyssa moved first with her incredibly graceful footwork and stance that had earned her recognition as a prodigy from Valeria. Her sword emerged from its sheath in a single flowing motion. The dark wolf lunging toward her never had a chance to complete its attack. Alyssa's swordsmanship had reached levels that made Tier 1 opponents seem almost comically slow in comparison. Swish! One slice was all it took to separate the wolf's head from its body without any resistance. The magical beast collapsed instantly, its dark blood staining the forest floor as Alyssa smoothly returned her blade to its sheath slowly. Clack! Well done, that's what I expect, Valeria observed with obvious approval. Your foundational stance is simply perfection. Adept-level swordsmanship against Tier 1 monsters was a complete mismatch. Kip's approach demonstrated why he had earned his status as an exceptional magical talent despite his young age. Instead of drawing a conventional weapon, he channeled wind magic through his hand, shaping concentrated air currents into a blade-like extension of his arm. The technique required precise mana control and elemental mastery that most couldn't achieve, but Kip executed it casually. Whoosh! His wind-enhanced hand cut through the attacking wolf's body like a sword through silk, the blade slicing cleanly through muscle and bone. The dark wolf collapsed into 2 pieces, its magical core disrupted by the elemental attack. Impressive spell work, Noah called, genuinely amazed by the young catboy's creative application of wind magic. I might have to steal that technique from you, Kip. Wind magic shaped into cutting weapons. I should learn that approach. It would be helpful in case my sword was broken or lost. The wolf in front of Noah, realizing that he was alone, was about to escape, but he found himself stuck as Kip and Alyssa surrounded him. He was no longer able to escape. Seeing the strength of the cat siblings, the wolf decided to go after the human in front of him. It was his only chance to survive this encounter. Noah's own opponent provided an opportunity to test his skills at their current limit without worrying about injuring anyone. As the dark wolf leapt toward him with its snapping jaws and extended claws, Noah channeled wind magic through his blade while executing a diagonal cutting strike. Swish! Crack! The attack carried far more force than pure swordsmanship could provide. Wind-augmented steel cut through the wolf's powerful hide and bone structure with devastating power, the creature's momentum carrying it past Noah even as its life ended. You have killed the Tier 1 beast, Dark Wolf. Excellent use of your skills, Lola observed with obvious pleasure at his development. You're learning to find more ways to combine your abilities rather than treating them as separate skills. Valeria nodded with satisfaction as she checked the 3 dead wolves. Well done, all of you. Noah, your power is increasing rapidly as usual. Your wind manipulation, mana control, and your swordsmanship are approaching apprentice rank. Well done. Noah accepted the compliments without being humble or shy. The warm-up combat had served its purpose, confirming that each team member could handle basic threats while demonstrating how their various skills complemented each other in actual battle situations. Ready for Tier 2 opponents? Valeria asked, gesturing toward the deeper forest where more dangerous creatures waited. Noah checked his weapon and magical energy levels, feeling confident that his abilities would prove adequate for whatever challenges lay ahead. Continuing ahead to their next destination, they encountered several more dark wolves that attempted to intercept their progress. The pack predators proved no more challenging than their initial opponents. Each wolf fell quickly to quick strikes from the group. Soon, they arrived at the territory where Tier 2 beasts made their home. The forest grew denser here, with older trees and thicker underbrush that provided better concealment for more dangerous predators. Valeria surveyed the area with a soft nod before turning to address the members of their hunting party. It's still warm up for both of you, she said, gesturing toward Alyssa and Kip with obvious confidence in their abilities. Her attention shifted to Noah with curiosity. You've never fought a Tier 2 beast before, have you? Noah shook his head honestly. No, I haven't. My combat experience is limited to sparring and Tier 1 opponents. Valeria nodded with understanding before outlining her training strategy. Alyssa and Kip will fight first. After observing their techniques against this level of opponent, Noah will take his own turn. I believe you have sufficient power to handle a Tier 2 beast, but understanding how a monster will fight beforehand is always better. We don't want you to get injured from the first beast, even if you have healing bread with you. Noah nodded. All right, let's see what this monster is. Chapter 177, Crimson Horn Bear. The beast in question was a massive bear that immediately made Noah raise his eyebrow due to its sheer physical presence. Its muscular frame stood nearly 8 feet tall, with claws that could shred steel and teeth designed for crushing bone. Most distinctive was the crimson horn protruding from its forehead, giving the creature its name, Crimson Horn Bear. The horn served as both weapon and tool, used for impaling prey and gouging through defensive barriers that might stop its normal attacks. That horn looks like it could punch through steel plate. Definitely not a Tier 1 opponent. The bear's magical aura radiated power that made the dark wolves seem like ordinary animals by comparison, confirming that Tier 2 beasts represented a significant escalation in danger and capability. Valeria surveyed the massive crimson horn bear before making her decision about the training sequence. Kip, you can take this one, she announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone whose judgment had been proven through countless battles. Kip nodded with a confident smirk spreading across his face as he stepped forward toward the bear. His aura flared slightly as he prepared for combat, alerting the massive beast to his presence. The crimson horn bear turned its attention toward the approaching catboy, its eyes recognizing the threat despite Kip's relatively small stature. The beast rose onto its hind legs, displaying its full 8-foot height while releasing a roar that ran through the forest. Kip didn't immediately launch into lethal spells, understanding that his role was demonstrating proper technique for Noah's benefit. The young mage needed to show how Tier 2 beasts moved, attacked, and defended so Noah could prepare for his own encounter. Watch carefully. Kip will show you how these bears utilize their horn and claws in their own combo attacks. Valeria murmured to Noah. The crimson horn bear charged forward with surprising speed for its massive size, leading with its distinctive horn while positioning its claws for follow-up strikes. But Kip was ready. Whoosh! The young mage channeled wind magic around his body, his agility allowing him to sidestep the bear's initial assault while maintaining perfect positioning for a counterattack. Swish! Wind blades formed around Kip's hands as he demonstrated his mastery of elemental magic. The cutting air struck the bear's thick hide, drawing blood but not inflicting heavy damage. The bear pivoted before swiping his massive claws toward where Kip had been standing. But the young mage was already gone, his wind magic providing mobility that kept him ahead of the beast's attacks. Splash! Water magic followed his wind assault, Kip conjuring streams of liquid that struck the bear's eyes and nose. The attack disrupted the creature's senses while demonstrating the advantage of using multiple elements in sequence. The bear shook its head violently, clearing its vision just in time to see Kip's earth magic taking effect. Stone spikes erupted from the ground beneath the creature's feet, forcing it to leap backwards. Wind, water, earth. Noah thought as he watched the ongoing fight with focus. See how he uses terrain control? Valeria pointed out to Noah. Earth magic shapes the battlefield while wind provides mobility and water offers damage and nuisance. Swish! Crack! Kip's finishing combination utilized all 3 elements simultaneously. He used his earth skill to close off the bear's escape route before using water to slow it down and disrupt its senses. After his setup was ready, Kip used his wind blade to strike the bear's vulnerable knees. Thud! The bear dropped to its knees and Kip took advantage, finishing it off with a strike to the head that made it collapse. Excellent fight, Valeria approved. Kip then opened the bear's cavity and took a small crystal. Noah raised an eyebrow. What's that? He asked, curious. This is a beast core. It has concentrated mana that mages could use to refine their own mana core. This is like a supplement to mages that help them progress faster. Beast cores only exist in the bodies of beasts that are apprentice rank or above. Lola explained, a small smile on her face. A second crimson horn bear emerged from deeper forest territory, drawn by the sounds of combat and the scent of blood from its fallen packmate. "Alyssa, this one's yours," Valeria announced. Alyssa stepped forward with slow steps, her sword by her side, ready to decimate her enemies. Aura surrounded her body as she prepared to fight the bear. Mages used their mana to cast out spells, whilst warriors like Alyssa used it to enhance their natural talent in swordsmanship or any other combat. The catgirl's stance embodied perfect balance between offense and defense, her blade positioned to respond instantly to threats while maintaining various striking angles. As the bear charged, Alyssa flowed into her deadly dance. The way she moved with the sword was nothing short of elegant and artistic. It was as if she were dancing with her sword like a partner. Swish! Her first strike came as a graceful diagonal cut that opened a wound along the bear's shoulder. Roar! The bear roared in pain as he tried to counterattack, but failed as Alyssa immediately sidestepped away. The attack demonstrated perfect timing and distance management, inflicting damage while avoiding the creature's retaliatory swipes. Alyssa's footwork carried her around the bear's bulk with ease. Each step positioned her for maximum advantage while keeping vital areas protected from the creature's dangerous horn and claws. Crack! Swish! Her blade work created a rhythm of strikes that built upon each other. Shallow cuts that weakened the bear's defenses, followed by deeper wounds that targeted vital areas. The sequence of strikes demonstrated Alyssa's understanding of combat and patience rather than mere aggression. She was a natural hunter through and through. The crimson horn bear attempted to use its distinctive horn in a devastating impaling attack, but Alyssa's reflexes allowed her to pivot away while her blade found the creature's neck. Swish! The final strike came with an artistic finish, her sword finding the exact angle needed to sever the main arteries. The bear collapsed without struggling, its life ending as blood splashed across the forest floor. Chapter 178. Fighting the Crimson Horn Bear. Beautiful technique. That was like watching a master artist at work. Noah observed with admiration. The way that Alyssa fought that bear made it look effortless, as if she were merely playing with it. Valeria nodded with obvious pride in her student's development. Alyssa has achieved what we call the flow. Few practitioners reach that level of artistic combat. After both demonstrations concluded, a third crimson horn bear appeared from the forest depths, as if the creatures were responding to the challenges from the hunting party. Valeria turned toward Noah with an expectant gaze. "It's your turn." Noah nodded with a grim expression, feeling the pressure of fighting something significantly above his current power level. The bears had demonstrated power and cunning that made them genuinely dangerous opponents rather than simple training exercises. Unlike Alyssa and Kip, who were adepts fighting an apprentice-rank beast, he was a novice fighting an apprentice-rank beast, which made all the difference in the world. But before he could take his first step toward combat, a familiar voice whispered directly into his ear with a teasing tone. "I will give you a very good present if you win, you will like it." Lola's seductive whisper sent his heart rate climbing several beats per minute despite his attempts to ignore it. Her tone made his mind wander into places that were forbidden. She never misses an opportunity to make things complicated. Noah shook off the distraction, though the promise lingered in his mind as additional motivation beyond simple survival and training advancement. "All right, let's do this," he declared with determination, walking forward with his sword at his side. Noah approached the crimson horn bear with his sword drawn, feeling some pressure from his watching companions. The massive creature stood its ground with confidence. No underestimating this opponent. Time to use everything I've got. Without hesitation, Noah activated every enhancement at his disposal. His aura flared to life around his body, creating a protective outline of mana that made his silhouette shimmer with a blue hue. "Good job," Valeria called from the sidelines. "Use all your abilities from the start. You can't underestimate this thing." Wind magic flowed through his mana channels and around his blade, enhancing both his mobility and striking power. Nia was preparing to use everything at once. He had no intention holding back, only a fool would hold back against someone much stronger than him. The crimson horn bear charged with devastating speed, its massive body moving faster than something that size had any right to travel. The creature led with its crimson horn while positioning its claws for a follow-up attack in case it was needed. Crash! Noah barely managed to deflect the initial horn thrust with his aura-enhanced blade, the impact sending vibrations through his arms that would have shattered normal human bones. Ugh, that's powerful. Dodge and counter. Don't try to match its strength directly. Alyssa shouted encouragement. Noah nodded as he prepared for the bear's next strike. The bear's claws swept toward Noah's position, forcing him to leap backward while his wind magic provided additional mobility. But the creature anticipated his movement, positioning itself for a devastating follow-up attack. It's learning my patterns already. This thing is dangerous. Swipe. Crash. Another exchange of claw against aura-enhanced sword sent Noah skidding across the forest floor, his vitality absorbing impacts that would have killed him just a few days ago. Noah's adapting. He is not only blocking the attack, but he is also using a lot of the bear's momentum to help him deflect it. Kip called with obvious excitement at Noah's great strategy. Clang. Whoosh. Noah began finding his rhythm as his combat instincts slowly adapted to the bear's attacks. His wind manipulation allowed him to stay ahead of the creature's devastating strikes by increasing his agility. But the real breakthrough came when inspiration struck during a particularly dangerous exchange. The inspiration came from his newly obtained skill, Feather Fall. As the Crimson Horn Bear prepared for another charging assault, Noah channeled wind magic through his legs and launched himself high into the air, soaring 15 feet above the creature's reach. Seeing Noah high in the air, Lola raised an eyebrow before smiling brightly. Oh, that's quite creative. The bear, having observed Noah's previous ground-based movements, predicted he would fall straight down and positioned its horn for a devastating impaling strike. Despite seeing the bear's horn directly under him, Noah did not panic. Instead, he smiled softly. I got you. As he approached the horn, Noah activated Featherfall at the perfect moment. Wind currents flowed beneath his feet, dramatically slowing his descent while allowing him to hover in midair for crucial extra moments. Whoosh! He's using wind to stop his descent. Kip shouted with admiration at the creativity of the attack setup. The Crimson Horn Bear's upward thrust met only empty air as Noah remained suspended above its reach, wind magic providing the split-second advantage he needed. Now, Noah angled his descent to strike from an unexpected direction, his aura-enhanced blade channeling wind magic for maximum cutting power. Noah channeled nearly all of his mana into one crucial attack. The bear, committed to its upward attack, couldn't adjust its positioning fast enough. Swish! Crack! His wind-enhanced sword struck the creature's exposed neck with devastating power. The combination of gravity, enhancement, and perfect timing created a strike that penetrated the bear's natural armor. That's a critical hit, Alyssa cheered with obvious excitement. The Crimson Horn Bear roared in pain and surprise, dark blood flowing from the wound as it staggered backwards. Excellent attack. You turned its intelligence against itself, Valeria called out. Throughout the fight, the bear had been predicting where Noah would land on multiple occasions. This time, Noah used that ability of the bear to land a critical hit. The bear circled warily now, no longer treating Noah as simple prey but recognizing him as a threat to its life. Finish it, Kip shouted encouragement. You've got the advantage now. Chapter 179. Alyssa versus Minotaur. Noah maintained his stance, aura flickering around his body, while wind magic prepared for whatever combination attack the situation demanded. His confidence had grown with the successful attack, but it wasn't to the point that he lowered his guard. Use your reach advantage. Keep it at sword's distance, Lola called out to him softly. The wounded bear attempted a desperate charging attack, but Noah was ready this time. His experience with the bear, combined with his wind-assisted mobility, allowed him to sidestep while delivering a series of cuts that opened multiple wounds. Swish, crack, slash. Perfect combination. This is what makes you unique, swordsmanship and magic working together, Valeria shouted. The crimson horn bear's movements grew sluggish as blood loss weakened it. But the creature's final attack came so suddenly, so desperately, that it nearly caught Noah off guard. Crash! Only his agility and wind talent saved him from the bear's last-ditch claw swipe, which would have injured him. Swish! Noah's finishing strike combined everything he'd learned. His blade found the creature's heart. The crimson horn bear collapsed with a final roar, its eyes losing their glint as life left its body. Well done! Multiple voices shouted simultaneously. Noah stood over his defeated opponent, breathing heavily but satisfied at having successfully faced his first Tier 2 challenge. Incredible fight, Valeria declared with obvious pride. That aerial move was cool, Alyssa added with admiration. You outthought a creature known for tactical intelligence, Kip contributed with excitement. Lola approached him, her ruby eyes sparkling. She moved her mouth without uttering anything. Yet Noah heard it loud and clear. You definitely earned that present I mentioned. Your swordsmanship skill has reached level 9. The notification brought immediate satisfaction to Noah. His combat against the Crimson Horn Bear had pushed his swordsmanship to the very edge of novice rank. One more level would officially elevate him towards apprentice status. Level 9 swordsmanship, almost at apprentice rank, just in time for the tournament. After celebrating his victory, Noah didn't miss the opportunity to harvest valuable materials from his defeated opponent. Beast cores from Tier 2 creatures seemed to be important. Despite his wealth, Noah wouldn't miss out on the free money that was earned from his fight. He carefully extracted the core from the creature's chest, feeling the concentrated mana inside it. The core went straight into his storage ring alongside his growing collection of valuable items. Always harvest what you can. Beast cores might be worth some serious money. Noah turned toward his companions with curiosity about their next plans. What are you guys planning to do now? Continue deeper. Valeria nodded. This was just the beginning. Alyssa and Kip will now head deeper into more dangerous territory to fight adept rank beasts. Adept rank beasts. That's a whole different level of danger. Her eyes studied Noah's expression as she continued. Would you like to come with us? The experience of observing high-level combat could be valuable for your development. Noah thought carefully about the invitation. He had just leveled up his swordsmanship, which represented excellent progress toward his goals. Spending time understanding more powerful creatures while witnessing adept-level combat techniques would provide insights that training couldn't match. I'll come, he decided. His reasoning was simple. Watching adept-rank combat should teach him things he couldn't learn anywhere else. Plus, Lola's here for protection if something goes catastrophically wrong. They continued deeper into the forest, leaving behind the relatively safe territory where Tier 2 creatures represented the primary threats. The atmosphere grew heavier as they approached regions where genuinely dangerous predators made their homes. Trees towered overhead, and the place was silent. It was unknown whether the place was simply void of life or whether something dangerous was lurking around. The aura they eventually encountered proved to be exponentially more powerful than the Crimson Horn Bear he had struggled to defeat. The difference wasn't small at all. In fact, it was extremely large. That thing would kill me without breaking stride. Noah frowned as he stared at the monstrosity blocking their path ahead. The beast was a minotaur, but not the relatively civilized version from classical mythology. This creature embodied savagery. It stood nearly 12 feet tall, its humanoid torso covered in coarse fur and muscle. The bull's head had jagged teeth that dripped saliva continuously, while its red eyes tracked Alyssa's approach. It clutched a weapon in its massive hands, a makeshift club constructed from entire tree trunks bound together with sinew and metal. The basic but effective bludgeon could crush apprentice knights like insects. That club weighs more than I do. One hit would paste me completely. Alyssa, this one's yours, Valeria announced with confidence in her disciple's capabilities. She's gonna fight that thing alone? Noah, stay well back. You might be caught in stray attacks that could seriously injure you. We also don't want to block Alyssa's movement or distract her. Noah and the others retreated to what was considered a safe distance, roughly 100 yards from where the confrontation would occur. Even at that range, the Minotaur's aura made the air feel oppressive. Alyssa approached the massive creature with a calm expression, confident in her swordsmanship despite the size difference. She looked so small compared to that thing. But she's not afraid at all. The Minotaur roared a challenge that echoed through the forest, raising its tree trunk club with the intent to crush the small cat girl who dared to approach its territory. Crash! Boom! The battle began immediately. The Minotaur's first strike created a crater where Alyssa had been standing. But she was already gone, her agility keeping her ahead of attacks that would break boulders. Swish! Clang! Alyssa's blade work targeted the Minotaur's joints and weak points, each strike calculated to exploit the creature's size disadvantages while avoiding its devastating counterattacks. The combat continued for several intense minutes, with Alyssa demonstrating that she was an adept swordsman who could hold her own against such a powerful monster. Her techniques flowed seamlessly between offense and defense. Alyssa used the Minotaur's brute force approach to create opportunities. Crack! Slash! Chapter 180. Pricing is an issue. The finishing sequence came when Alyssa's enhanced reflexes allowed her to slip inside the Minotaur's guard, her blade finding vital arteries. Blood immediately erupted like a fountain, spraying the forest floor with deep, dark blood. The massive creature collapsed with a final roar, its magical aura dissipating as life faded. She made it look almost easy, but the battle hadn't been completely one-sided. A large scratch marred Alyssa's left arm where the Minotaur's claws had found their mark during one exchange. She's hurt, not seriously, but she needs healing. Noah immediately reached into his storage ring, withdrawing a loaf of magical bread. Here, this will help with the wound. Alyssa accepted the offering with obvious gratitude, understanding exactly what Noah was providing. Thank you. After watching Alyssa and Kip fighting additional Minotaurs in the area, Noah had gained valuable combat experience. Observing what practitioners at higher ranks could accomplish provided insights that no amount of theoretical training could match. The demonstrations had shown him techniques, timing, and approaches that would take time to discover through personal trial and error. Each battle revealed new combinations that expanded his understanding of what was truly possible. It had been about 2 hours since he'd left his shop, and Noah decided it was time to return. When he announced his intention to head back, surprisingly, Valeria and the others were also ready to conclude their hunting expedition. The timing worked perfectly for a group return to the city. Good timing, we are heading back too, Valeria said as they began their journey back. I wanted to visit your shop anyway. Princess Alara mentioned you have some new items in stock. Noah raised an eyebrow with curiosity about what exactly Alara had told the guild master. She didn't provide specifics, but if the princess says something is good, it must be exceptional. Valeria continued. Noah smiled before replying. You're welcome to take a look. The return journey passed quickly. Valeria proved to be an excellent instructor, providing commentary that helped Noah understand the finer points of what he'd witnessed. Arriving at the store, Noah unlocked the entrance and gestured for his companions to enter first. Valeria stepped inside and immediately froze. Her expression moved from interest to complete shock as she read the descriptive placards. These items, permanent enhancement regardless of rank? That's impossible, she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes moved from one display to another, protein bars promising permanent strength increases, energy drinks offering permanent agility enhancement, and beef jerky providing permanent vitality improvement. Noah, why didn't you tell me about these? She demanded, her voice climbing several octaves. She was unable to contain her excitement. The items in front of her simply blew her mind. Noah shrugged. There wasn't really an occasion to mention them. Occasion? Valeria's voice rose with disbelief. What occasion? These are legendary artifacts. If I had missed the opportunity to acquire such items, I would regret it for the rest of my life. Valeria had been so focused on the impossible item descriptions that she hadn't yet noticed the pricing information. When her eyes finally found the cost details, her expression changed from excitement to devastation. Her eyes began watering as if she was about to cry, the emotional whiplash of discovering perfect items only to realize they were completely beyond her financial reach. 1,000 golden coins, she whispered with the tone of someone reading her own death sentence. For a single protein bar. The guild master's shoulders slumped as the harsh reality crushed her dreams of advancing to master rank. Even as the leader of a successful mercenary organization, she didn't possess the kind of wealth required for permanent attribute improvement. Well, she did have enough to purchase one item, but she was saving that money for her younger brother's improvement. He had the potential to reach the adept rank by the next year, and she needed to have enough to fuel his development. Furthermore, as the guild master, she treated those in the guild like her family. Even Alyssa, her advancement had been paid by Valeria herself. She had treated Alyssa like her younger sister, advancing her to the adept rank in such a short time. Most of her savings had been depleted to fuel Alyssa's development, and still, even after seeing this item before her, she didn't regret fueling Alyssa's development. Even if she had the chance to return in time, she would still do it again without hesitating. The cat girl had become something akin to her younger sister. "I don't have enough, not even close," she admitted quietly. Noah watched her emotional journey with sympathy but without surprise. Premium enhancement items commanded prices that reflected their true value, making them accessible only to royalty, master-level practitioners, or extraordinarily wealthy merchants. "The pricing reflects their permanent effects," he explained gently. "Items that provide lasting improvement naturally cost more than temporary benefits." Despite his words, Noah was starting to rethink his strategy of selling these items. Initially, he had decided to implement the same pricing approach he had used in the Demon Kingdom inside the Human Kingdom. As time passed, Noah was beginning to realize that the strategy was fundamentally flawed. Different kingdoms had different economic realities, different income distributions, and different capabilities. The humans in this kingdom had suffered for a very long time under the siege of extremist demons, their economy weakened by constant warfare and resource diversion toward defense. Even buying his bread and iced tea represented a significant expense for most citizens. Only very few could afford his premium items, and the evidence was becoming undeniable. Staring at the progress statistics for his premium automakers, Noah frowned with growing concern about his business approach. Auto Protein Bar, Level 1. Production rate, 1 bar every 2 hours. Max stock, 12. Progress, 4/100. The protein bar had been sold to the king and a few other wealthy customers. Yet even then, progress remained minimal at only 4/100. The slow advancement demonstrated that his target market was extremely limited.